Bam! We're live. Showered. Coiffed. Worked out. Hiller asked me, Hiller went and saw Hippensteel, and he said, hey, can you squat 205? I don't know what did Hippensteel squat? 340? I don't know why Hiller chose 205. So today I texted him, I said, hey, dude, I squatted 205 or I squatted 210. And he's like, do you have video of it? Of course, that's the first thing he says to me. I'm like, come on. Come on. So I pulled the squat rack out. Maybe I'll try squat. It was easy. Squatting 210 was easy. Hey, what's up, Ryan?
How's it going?
Good to see you. Hey, what time is it where you're at?
10 a.m.
10 a.m. Hey,
10 a.m. tomorrow for you.
Oh yeah. Okay, you're ahead. Hey, listen, I have a deep curiosity in people, and so at any moment, like I have you on here to kind of help unfuck me in a couple areas, but I'm a deeply thank you, I appreciate it, and my audience would love to see me get unfucked a little bit. But I have a deep curiosity in just people in general. And if I ask you any questions that are like too personal that you can't share, never hesitate. I know you wouldn't, but I'm very comfortable with you saying I don't talk about that.
Sure.
But I have heard you mention stuff about family and what country you live in, and I'm so curious how you ended up there and just kind of like your history. I ended up doing a podcast because basically I got canceled. I had through a work thing through Black Lives Matter and my boss making a tweet that was inappropriate, and it just ended up. It actually wasn't inappropriate. It was misunderstood, caused this whole fallout, and then now I just raised
hysterical.
Completely like, fucking hysterical.
It's
crazy.
A great name, Black Lives Matter, and like who would disagree? Like any life matters, but it ended up just being mostly a giant grift with a racial justice theme.
I was born in the Bay Area, and when I first started seeing the Black Lives Matter, it was prior to the COVID shit, and I remember seeing them on like the signs Black Lives Matter on lawns and stuff, and I remember thinking I thought for sure that was blacks talking to blacks. I thought that was blacks signaling blacks because I in the Bay Area we got tons of blacks killing blacks, right? Oakland, Richmond.
If they just added one word, if they just wrote two, they had Black Lives Matter 2.
Oh,
and then fine. That would have made the focus on blacks, but also acknowledge that, like, obviously all life matters because the slogan is kind of silly.
But I thought it was for them signaling each other, not signaling me. Like I already knew that. I thought all like I don't see here. White people aren't killing black people. You know what I mean? It's like 90.
I think their thing was like they believed that blacks were disproportionately killed by police, is what I think they thought.
Right. I agree with you. Just the numbers were so small. If you have 12 unarmed men being killed at 360 million traffic stops, but the other 96% of black murders are black on black crime, then you're like, okay, they must be signaling themselves. I thought it was just a respect thing. Anyway, between themselves. And I thought it was cool at first until it wasn't.
If you want the sanctity of life, the overwhelming force of homicide on blacks are blacks.
Yeah. What was it? What was the term you used? If you want the sanctity?
If you're promoting the sanctity of life, like life matters, then the abuse from other blacks far outweighs anything from police or whites or anyone else.
Right. And I guess, and if we're going to split life into based on the color of their skin, which is preposterous, but we have eyes and it happens.
Yeah, that's not why they're being killed, and that's not why they're doing killing. Like, people commit crimes for specific reasons, usually some kind of commercial interest or interpersonal conflict. It's not because blacks are racist to blacks or something. The blackness has nothing to do with why they're being murdered. Poverty is a bigger reason. Like, where you live has a higher correlation than what you look like.
It's kind of interesting you bring that up. So when I was watching, I was watching some of your podcasts. I've been trying to like watch as many as I can in the last week, and really absorbing it. By the way, I just stumbled on the one that you did with Ron Paul. Like
this is the first one without the dark shades, other than Ron Paul, because I have macular degeneration. But I respect Ron Paul so much. I was like, I cannot wear a nice suit and then sunglasses, so I just like tried not to look at the screen.
Feel free to put them on. Feel free to put them on. I can even join you. I got.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
These do block the blue light, but
Okay. So
just so people know, I'm not being rude. This is to protect my eye. I just had surgery.
it's just one.
Yeah, it's just one, but I don't have an eye patch, so.
Oh, an eye patch would be dope.
Yeah, I want to get one since I'm probably gonna have another few months of this. Get like a pirate's style. I'm actually related to Blackbeard, one of the most famous or infamous pirates in the Outer Banks.
Hey, dude, if you do get a patch, you should brand it. Just like, you know, in COVID, like you would go places and the masks would be fucking branded. Like it'd be like a Nike mask or everyone was selling masks. Do you remember that shit?
You know what's ironic
You should
is
brand a patch. That would be
we
cool.
did not have mandatory mask wearing in Japan, which is a place where lots of people wear a mask anyway for pollen allergies or whatever. It's just a common thing you see. And then during COVID, when everyone else was forced to wear a mask, East Asia didn't do that.
That's a trip. Yeah, I traveled all over.
I think Tokyo City did it for a month or two, but the rest of Japan didn't.
About 20 years ago in a previous life, I traveled all over the world for like 5 or 6 years, just nonstop. And I remember all the Asian countries I was in back then. I would be like, yep, I must be getting close to Asia. Because 1 out of 10 people or 1 out of, I don't know, 50 people, was masked up.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to that thing, cause and correlation. So there's these people who are fans of yours who confuse Israel with Jews. And it seems like,
It's stupid.
yeah, and it seems like but I understand it, right? It's the same thing that we saw the whole same thing happen
Well,
with
they
black.
call themselves a Jewish state, so it's like they're bringing that prejudice onto Jews because Israel's a pariah state. The example I give to people that seems to resonate with them, because I live in South Korea now, is look at North Korea. North Korea is just as Korean as South Korea, but you couldn't get any more different. And so the product of the state is not from biology. A state is a state for a lot of different reasons. It's not genetically determined. So Israel is not the way it is just because there's a bunch of Jews there. And you can look at that different example, or even within the United States, you get different states are vastly different. I think the demographic makeup of California and Texas is about the same, but they couldn't be any more different ideologically.
Right. Two great examples. Another thing I want to bring up, a theme I want to bring up that is something I wish I could remember the exact words you said, but you talked about in one of your podcasts about people who were just recently red pilled. They're kind of like in their infancy.
Oh yeah. So the noobs, people, what'll happen is
That's me, by the
if you
way.
get
That's me, by the
red
way.
pilled too fast, there seems to be a pattern where they go overboard of overcorrectness. So because they learn, oh, this isn't true and that isn't true, and then they just start doubting everything. They don't know what to believe, and they get and they end up saying some pretty silly things and doubting stuff they don't need to doubt. But I blame the government on that. Like this, I'm not saying you, but if someone goes so far out that they don't know what shape the Earth is or something, just for an example, because they've been lied to about science with COVID, for example, or they watch all those war propaganda and none of it's true. Then they start doubting anything, any vaccine, anything in science, everything. They don't know. They're like, well, Rock didn't have WMDs, so blah blah blah. Like, well, you have to take each case as an individual case. And of course, the government lies. You can see the motives and incentives. You can see the profitability behind whatever specific thing it is. Well, they get red pill too fast and they start overcorrecting all things in history and in a dogmatic way. And the other thing that happens is the more complex an idea is, the more complex a truth is, the fewer people who will be able to get it. And Leonardo da Vinci said there are, 3 types of people. There's people who can see, there are people who can see when shown, and the people who can't see. The people who can see when shown, like they can't figure it out, but they can understand it if someone else who figured it out explains it to them, are actually the more dangerous than the ones who can't see at all. because they're they're more intelligent, first of all, and it's that medium group that's the real threat. And I see this with a lot of conspiracies when it comes to, say, September 11th, for example, John F. Kennedy, whatever. These are conspiracies. No matter what you think about 9/11, it's a conspiracy. Even if you think Al Qaeda did it all by themselves, well, that's a conspiracy. They conspired together to commit a criminal act and pulled it off. Uh, but they start adding more and more goofy stuff to it. Like the story's not fantastic enough unless they start adding these. That happened with Jeffrey Epstein. I have the Jeffrey Epstein list right there. Well, it's actually on the wall in a bit.
Hey, can
But
people buy
people,
that? Can people buy that poster?
they can, antineocon.com. You can get the poster. I even have a hoodie with the client list written on the back and like it mapped out on the front. I got frustrated. But the thing is,
Anti-neocon. I think I'm a
just
neocon.
anti-neocon, all one word.com.
Dot
It goes
com.
to
Okay. I think
Shopify.
I'm a neocon, by the way. I looked up the definition before the show and I was like, oh man, you have a lot of work to do, Ryan. Okay. Oh yeah,
Well,
this
the
is cool.
original neocon is Lincoln, but what'll happen is that list does not have that many super sexy Hollywood names on it, and that's what they want. But if you start talking about Jess Staley or Glenn Dubin or these sort of boring, innocuous hedge fund managers and bankers who are very powerful and very important, but people don't know who they are. So the ones they gravitate to are like Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, because I mean Bill Clinton is a big one, but he's also famous, and they were, fixated on Monica Lewinsky and not all the other stupid shit he did, like war in Bosnia. No, it was the dress. Like I really don't care who he's sleeping with that compared to relative to war and the things he did, but that's how the public is. They need these names. There's zero interest in the RFK assassination because the guy that shot him, Thane Caesar, is not some famous mobster or anything. And so they're like, and that bothers me that the public needs some sort of Hollywood level glaze on everything in order to be outraged about it. So look, this donor class behind Epstein, these are very important people. These are billionaires. And that is who actually runs things. The only one they care about is Rothschild, and that's because there's movies like Zeitgeist and stuff that they learned a word, and that's going to be their thing, and they want a very simplistic Alex Jones style model with a pyramid like Rothschild on top, and then these organizations. That's just not real. It's not that simple. But simpletons need simple things, so they take the complexities and reduce it down to something that's manageable for themselves and then go out dogmatically preaching this what they've invented. uh, but it spreads faster because the more you water something down, the more people it can reach.
Mm.
And so what happens is the sensationalist crap just becomes this giant ether of stupid that overwhelms actual truth. The complexities of the Kennedy assassination, the complexities of how states actually covertly sponsor Al Qaeda, same way they did ISIS, same way they did the Contras in the Iran Contra affair, is nuanced and difficult to understand. It's not difficult to be like Bush did it, and so that's what they're going to say. you know? So that's what we're up against. It's not just the government; it's the charlatans that take advantage of the well placed doubt in the state gets overtaken by Alex Jones types that it's like, look, I'm loud and I'm on a hill, and so I'm going to scream about scum and the elite and whatever, and people gravitate to that because he dumbs it down to something digestible.
There are some really fun, popular. By the way, I highly recommend this new
Oh,
Mex.
that's not my channel, by the way. That's some fan did that.
No shit.
Yeah, it's not me.
Are you cool with it?
I mean, there's nothing I can do about it. Like,
I mean,
I'm
that's
surprised it's there because everything I put on YouTube gets immediately nuked.
oh, interesting.
I'm on Rumble.
Wow. Okay. It's crazy because I was just watching. In a lot of your interviews, you'll be like, "Hey, this isn't on YouTube," and then I'll be like, "Oh, I wonder." I just assumed this was yours, and this movie is on
Uh,
YouTube already. Already
no, I had
11,000
like
views.
100,000 on YouTube. This one has what? 11, 7? Yeah, it's not me.
You mean you have 100,000 views on Rumble?
No, I had 100,000 followers on YouTube, and it got nuked. Rumble's like 35 or something. Rumble's hard to build. You know, everyone when they go to see a video, they just go to YouTube. I'm not
Yeah,
allowed on YouTube. I'm not allowed on Vimeo. I'm not allowed on Twitch. I'm not allowed on PayPal. I'm not allowed on Patreon. I can't be on anything. And this is what happens: is you get flack when you're over the target. Andrew Tate says this too. Like when you're actually a threat to the system, that's when you get erased. They don't care. Like movies like Loose Change are on Netflix because it's absolute shit. It's like they didn't get anything right about September 11th besides the date. I'm surprised they got that.
that
Everything they say is wrong. So
that
if that gets
started on
promoted,
YouTube, right? That started on
it's
YouTube. Loose
yeah, and it
Change.
has like
Okay.
millions of views because it's retarded. Because
Um.
it's not a threat to the system at all, because none of it's right. And it took this like very well-intentioned doubt in the official story and just swerved it off a cliff, barking up the wrong tree, whatever you want to use. It's where all this energy that should have been directed towards the problems in 9/11, the fact that the CIA purposely withheld information from the FBI about foreknowledge and hijackers in the United States who they knew were terrorists, who they knew had gone to Al Qaeda summit meetings in Malaysia, for example. Like they met with a colleague Sheikh Mohammed, and that was Nawif Al Hazmi and Khalid Al Midhar, who are on Flight 77. This is things we know. But that's not going to be in loose change. Like no names are in those documentaries besides Bin Laden. Like it's super simple for simpletons. Like this is packaged propaganda for morons to redirect energy that should have been on real facts about September 11th and place it in basically like a circus where they're now wondering whether or not they're airplane at all. That's how dumb it got.
Yeah.
And like, you know, it got to like holograms and do weapons and hijackers are still alive and it was all remote control, whatever. And it's just what happens is someone like myself that needs to reach serious people, I don't want to be labeled a 9/11 truther
Mm,
because they're just going to roll their eyes and go, God, another one of those people,
mm.
one of these thermite weirdos, whatever, you know. And so I have to spend like a half an hour debunking that stuff to prove, no, I'm not one of these kooks. I have a completely different angle on this. You didn't see that with the war in Syria or the war in Iraq. And it's because Alex left it alone. So when you
Who?
talk about governments,
Alex Jones.
Alex Jones is the worst because all the other charlatans wouldn't even be known if they weren't on his show. And he did with Fetzer and all these people. They all got their fame from being on with Alex Jones. And I think he does it on purpose because he knows better. He's not I wouldn't call him stupid. It's on purpose. And he made himself a millionaire doing it. So good for him there. But like at the expense of it, that guy could undo so much damage in a day if he would just come out and say the truth for 5 minutes. But he won't.
You think he knows?
This is somebody
You
that
think he
said that we
knows?
should carpet bomb Gaza inch by inch with Moabs.
So,
Disgusting.
so this is where you and I differ. Well, this is where you need to unfuck me. What
All right.
is you? So I've very surface level. I've covered. You know, I spent 8 hours looking at stuff you've made. Probably right. Very surface level.
Did you watch Numek?
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very surface level, but still I'm like, yep. Like you're like Hansel and you're like the Hansel and Gretel. You're throwing the popcorn out and I'm just following. I'm like, yep. I got makes sense. Unfuck Sevon, please. Give it a second, guys. Give it a second. He just got here.
Is it on the Israel-Palestine issue?
Totally.
Okay.
So
We can do that.
so my thing, you're disgusted by the fact that Trump suggested that they leave. I think that anyone suggesting that they stay is fucking batshit crazy.
I think
My
it's a false dichotomy. Like they wouldn't
okay,
have to leave and staying wouldn't be a problem if God's chosen lunatics would quit bombing their houses.
right, okay, but those people don't get along, right? The people in
Israel doesn't
apartment.
get along with anybody.
Okay, yeah. So right. So Israel doesn't. They're a small little spot, and they don't get along with anyone in that area, right? And they've been fighting with those people, killing those people for a long time.
They preemptively attacked them all, and they created their state through terrorism and colonizing and pushing out 780,000 people by force. That had a
Where was
predictable
that? Where was that,
consequence.
Ryan? Where was the 780?
So the whole thing used to be Palestine,
Mhm.
and it had different iterations. Like, well, if you want to go way back, when like even when Alexander the Great invaded or whatever, it's always been a continuity of people, and religions come and go. It used to be majority. It used to have Christians. You had Muslims. You had different time before those religions were even invented. There are people there. If you want to go all the way back to the Tufian farmers or something, and I don't see the point in arguing about what portion was Assyrian, which portion was Egyptian, how many were Phoenician. What
I
it
agree.
doesn't matter. It,
I
it doesn't.
agree.
How many were Hebrew? Because Jews were there too.
I
It
agree.
doesn't matter. You cannot take a native population with private property and then bring in a foreign horde from Europe, blue eyes, white skin, everything, who self-identify, I call them trans Semites, as descendants of ancient Hebrews when they're not. I mean, even if they were, and they're returning, even if that's true, and it's not, you cannot physically force people off their farms and out of their homes and take it over like you're killing red Indians or something. But that's what they did in 1948. They had came in, they went to war, and they pushed these people out. They even attacked towns that weren't even involved, like Deir Yassin, where they beheaded 200 people. They put Palestinians in cages and paraded them around in
Who
Jerusalem.
did that? Was that the British or the French who did that? Who did that?
No, that was the Haganah terrorists that become the Israeli state. It was
Okay.
Jewish terrorist groups that were getting financed by organized crime and all these disgusting things. But the British, see, Britain could not hold on to its colonies after World War II because it had gotten beaten so badly by the Germans. And so they had two huge partitions, one in India, which gives you India and briefly East and West Pakistan, which is now Bangladesh and just Pakistan, no West Pakistan, and did it in a horrible way with Orientalization, where you had Hindu and Muslim going at each other, and still are in Kashmir. I mean, they were just had a small war, and the other one was in Palestine. Uh, and it doesn't matter if Palestine used to be part of Jordan or used to be part of the Roman Empire or used to be part of the Ottoman Empire. Palestine is Palestine, just like Virginia is part of the United States. Virginia has never been an independent country, so it's always been a state. And yeah, the West Bank of Jordan becomes Palestine in the British Mandate, and they physically removed all these people because they have this biblical idea that based on a wrestling match with an angel, that Jacob was granted land by a divine force, and that his ethnic group exclusively gets to live on this dirt. That's insane, and it's based on mythology of King David and Solomon. These are not any more real than King Arthur, by the way. But in this Jewish storybook, there's a King David and a King Solomon, and they have all these things. They're like, this is our land. I mean, by our, they don't mean like our government gets to rule it, but they mean their ethnic group. Like biologically, this land is for Jews and only Jews. And when they build settlements in the West Bank, they are racially segregated. Now, I'm not saying Jews are a race, they are. I think it's an identity, it's a religion. Like if you believe in Judaism, you're a Jew. It doesn't matter what race you are. But those particular Jews of the Zionist variety believe that no, Jews are a bloodline of Jacob, therefore it's a race. I don't think Jacob is real. I don't believe in the Jacob and Esau story or Adam and Eve or any of that stuff. It's clearly a religion they invented, like every other religion that's ever been invented.
Let me throw this out there because you said it's insane because it's based on this wrestling match and they think it's that their land. But
Yeah, that's as dumb as it gets. Yeah,
right,
like,
but I don't know. I'm going to propose one thing that's dumber. One thing that's dumber is to stay and fight for the land when you have 11th century weapons and the other people have 21st century weapons. Why not? What like my I don't know what
most of them
ethnicity.
didn't. There's millions of refugees in Jordan and hundreds of thousands in Egypt and Lebanon that did leave who could.
Right.
Not everyone can, and that's because the U.S. paid up first in Egypt was Mubarak, the second highest aid recipient after Israel. was Egypt, and they were paying them to shut the Rafah border and not let the Palestinians out.
The
They
U.S.
wanted to
was? The U.S.
exterminate.
was paying them to
The
keep them in
U.S.
there?
was paying off Egypt to turn on the Palestinians. And Israel, in different points in time, had occupied the entire Sinai Peninsula, and uh, Eisenhower wanted none of that. He forced them out, and he put in UN peacekeepers from 1957 to 1967. The Israelis attempted a false flag operation in Egypt in 56. It's called the Levant Affair, but it shouldn't be. It should be called Operation Susanna because that's its actual name. But it was all blamed on this defense minister, Pinhas Savan. But he was actually a fall guy. Ben Kavili was the real brainchild behind this, where they went around bombing Western targets and tried to blame it on the Egyptians. But a man, Philip Nathanson's bomb went off prematurely in his jacket, and they went through his house and they figured out through his papers that this was an entire Israeli operation. They were doing a false flag, but it didn't matter because they had the Suez Crisis anyway, and the Levant Affair went through, and Britain and France aided Israel in attacking Egypt. But the Americans came in and were like, because the Americans are in the middle of a Cold War, and they don't want to turn them towards the Soviet Union, and they don't want to lose the Suez Canal. And so they said, knock it off. The Suez belongs to Egypt. They were willing to work with Nasser, and so was Kennedy. And they put in peacekeepers for 10 years. Weeks after they were removed, Israel starts the Six-Day War in 1967, and they also attacked a U.S. intelligence gathering ship, the USS Liberty, and tried to blame that on the Egyptians. When that didn't work, they said, we thought it was an Egyptian ship. It was an accident. It's not true. They definitely knew it was an American ship. Johnson was part of that. LBJ said he wanted the damn thing sunk to the bottom of the ocean. And when the Americans survived that attack, by the way, one of the Israeli fighter pilots was very reluctant and was like, I can't do this. So he kind of shot at it, but not, he kind of like followed his orders, but in a sloppy way, so he wouldn't do as much damage. That guy got reprimanded later. But LBJ was all for it. He was sleeping with an Irgun terrorist named Matilda Krim. Arthur Krim worked in the Johnson administration. The only reason he was president is because somebody got rid of Kennedy. But he put a gag order on the survivors. Like, the Americans were not even allowed to tell people what had happened to them and how the Israelis had murdered 34 of them and wounded another 117 of them. They went through this horrible ordeal where an ally, like, they didn't shoot at them and they just let them approach. They didn't have much on that intelligence ship anyway, as far as weapons go. The Israelis slaughtered Americans. The American president put a gag order on the survivors. He sided with the Israelis.
This is
It was very
LBJ.
important.
This is Lyndon
That's
Johnson.
LBJ. Yeah, Lyndon Johnson knew because they had killed Kennedy.
Because he didn't want to give
Going
Israel
after the nuclear program. Yeah.
right. Okay.
Yeah.
This is all important. This is all important. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, the specifics matter. It's like, I say, so your question about, well, you're outgunned, so why fight? A lot of them aren't.
my people, my
they're not
family came
Hamas.
here. My family came here I'm Armenian, so my family came during the genocide. My grandparents told me the story.
I'm glad you admit it is a genocide. I'll acknowledge that too. It was.
Well,
It's mass murder anyway.
for sure, mass murder. I was raised that Turkish people fucking slaughtered us. Then when I started researching the history, the Armenians were friends with the Russians, and the Armenians were living in Turkey, and the Turks were like, "What the fuck? We got to get rid of these people." That adds a little bit of nuance to the story, right? It doesn't take away from the fact that they were slicing open the women's stomachs and slaughtering them.
Yeah, but they were just killing civilians. So, like, I understand the political reasons to go against the PKK or against Armenians, or the PKK being Kurds. I get it, but it's just like same thing with Israel. These people don't want to fight you and aren't fighting you. When you're going around and shooting children in the head, which is proven by X-rays, those kids don't have any weapons or choice. That's just where they are. They barely have any food. They can't just go live in a tent, and you're going around and shooting them. And this, I'm not even talking about right now. I mean, this has been going on. People will say, why didn't Hamas build hospitals and roads? And they did. Israel blew them up in 2008 and 9. Cast lead. Israel attacked them again with Operation Pillar of Defense 2012, another one Protective Edge 2014. They attacked them again in 2021, where they blew up the hospitals, they blew up the universities, they blew up their houses, they blew up the media, they blew up their farms, they blew up their only power plant, they blew up the only Coca-Cola bottling plant in 2021.
Right,
Like,
Ryan, let me. I don't deny all that stuff. I want to point something out to you. In my mind, when I hear about black people complaining about white people and they're using color, it's fucking batshit crazy. Because 6% of the population in the United States, which is black men, are committing 51% of the murders. But for some reason, it's fucking batshit crazy. Are you suggesting
I think it's
that?
55%,
Okay,
maybe not.
55%. But are you suggesting that I'm as batshit crazy? Because I have the script completely flipped. In my mind, there's 12 million Jews, there's one Jewish nation, there's 54 Muslim nations with 1.5 billion Muslims. Can't they just leave these fuckers alone? I realize that, and I want to get into the bigger picture about how basically Israel's running the world through blackmailing. I'm in on that, man. Like, I'm like, holy shit, they got a lot of people fucking people. They
Yeah, the
shouldn't.
size, it's
But
like,
why
look at
not?
tiny England or tiny Portugal, but they went around and colonized the planet. Like, it doesn't matter the size of your population so much as you have a first-rate army. Gaza doesn't have a navy. They don't have an air force. They don't even have an airport
They
for
don't have a
commercial planes.
blackmailing operation.
They don't have a giant lobby in the United States. They don't have a blackmail, or they don't have anything like that. They had most of the guns they have, they got from Israel on the black market. They don't even have shoes in some of them. They don't have body armor. They're not supported by Iran. Nothing's getting in there other than what the Israelis allow, which is small arms and homemade stuff. They're just getting abused. There was a wall wrapped around Gaza with turrets and guns and drones pointed at them. Uh, and they're annexing land in the West Bank, which is internationally illegal. Even the United States has said the settlements are illegal, but they just do them anyway because
Right.
it doesn't matter if something's illegal if there's no consequence when you act on it.
Right.
And they continue to build settlements. There's no sanctions on Israel. There was, well, until now. After October 7th, when they just started bombing families in their homes and be like, Hamas tunnel, like, no, there's no tunnel. Y'all are just exterminating Palestinians.
Do you
You
really think they're
come out and say you're
exterminating them?
fighting Amalek.
You call it
Yeah.
genocide. Is it really genocide?
Yeah, and people confuse that term. Like, genocide is not, you don't wait until after it's over and then go, well, they killed them all. That's a genocide. Well,
Great
yeah,
point.
but
Great point.
as it's happening, like, this is
Great point.
genocidal. You're going, you don't wait till after the fact.
Right.
Then it's too late to call it a genocide. But you get these people, these semantics are like, they confuse genocide with extermination.
Yeah, you're talking to
Extermination,
someone who's
like,
dumb.
is
I was
the
gonna be
end
like, it's only
result of a
40,000, but you're
genocide.
right. You're right.
Yeah. Well, it's way more than 40,000. Like,
What, like
Lancet went
200
in
now?
last summer and it was already 180,000.
Okay.
And that the Lancet medical journal, like, these aren't Hamas numbers or anything. They can't, the Hamas thing is actually super conservative because they have to go and get a body and find an ID. A lot of these people are just completely buried under rubble or burned. They're finding skeletons and stuff. What the Israelis did, they shot up a water reservoir and they put 3 dead bodies in the tank. They found the skeletons in the water tank because they're polluting their water.
Right.
What they had left. It's disgusting. They did that before October 7th. Like, this is prior operations. They've done this. They blew up the AP building. They blew up Gaza University. And it's just like, until Elon Musk took over Twitter, none of these stories could get out because all social media would censor it.
That sucked. I know I was kicked off of YouTube for a week, and I kicked off of Instagram, threatened to get kicked off of YouTube all the time. Let me ask
I
you
was
this.
banned in 2005 from MySpace. I got kicked off YouTube 5 times.
For what, all for the
You
same
know,
subject, these subjects?
they don't tell you. I
Oh,
didn't get strikes or anything. They
right,
just
me
remove
neither.
you.
Right.
Yeah, they just do it.
Well,
Yeah.
YouTube told me it was because I said that nutrition and exercise was the best fight against all diseases, and that was against WHO guidelines, and I got kicked
That's what
off.
my great grandfather said. He said most of these things, all these modern ailments, could be, you wouldn't have to, it wouldn't get to that point if you had a proper diet.
Mm.
And he's like, all these diet fads, you just need a balanced diet. That was his opinion. Just eat everything. Don't eat. Well, maybe when he said that, we didn't have high fructose corn syrup and all that and everything, but he just meant, like, potatoes, steak, vegetables, whatever. Just, it's not complicated. Just get a real diet. Don't overeat.
Brian, why not put your energy towards, hey, this country's fucked, let's get these people out.
But where? I mean, it's like when
I don't
prior to the
know.
Holocaust, like why didn't the Jews just leave Europe? Like
Right.
why do they
Well,
have
they
to?
were trying.
A lot of them did.
They were trying, right? And FDR fucked them, right? They were
No,
trying. They were.
a lot of them left. A lot of them, and some stayed. But I'm not going to blame the victim. So
I'm
it's
not
kind of
blaming
like,
them.
yeah, but it's
I'm.
like, why don't 2 million people just go somewhere else? Like, okay, yeah, it's like saying a rape victim, well, maybe you should have worn more clothing. Or something. Like, no, man, I'm going to blame the rapist. I'm going to blame the people shooting children in the head with sniper rifles. Fuck them.
I'm not suggesting that the blame doesn't go to them. I'm suggesting, like in my life, it's more important to get what I want than be right.
Well,
And
there's
these.
already more they don't have the means to move. Like, a lot of them don't have the money to just go buy a house somewhere. Like, they live where they live. They've already been pushed out of wherever they were into Gaza. A lot of them lived in Ashkelon, right north of Gaza, and they have to watch Israelis live in their homes that they built, that people from Brooklyn came over and moved into someone's house and kicked them out. They've already moved. They've already moved into a very tiny corner of what's essentially a concentration camp, and now they're coming and saying,
Yeah.
move again. It's
Yeah.
like kicking Indians off the reservation and go to this even smaller reservation. They don't have anywhere to go anyway. Egypt won't let them in. And listen, I'll defend Egypt a little bit. Egypt did absorb a lot of Palestinians. They can't barely handle their own population. They're having a water crisis, and that has to do with Ethiopia building its third reservoir. They built a dam for electrical purposes on the Blue Nile, which lowered the water level. There's a civil war in Sudan. They've also taken in a lot of Sudanese refugees. They have all the mouths to feed that they can feed. Egypt is not a wealthy country, and it was also exacerbated by the grain trade that they can't grow on their own because of the water. They had to buy it, but because Ukraine kept using the corridor, the naval corridor, to attack Crimea, they shut that off. But shut down trade ships as well, so less grain got to Egypt. So other geopolitical factors from Ethiopia to Ukraine have contributed to this. But the result is they're having a water crisis. There's an ongoing brutal war in Sudan where they're taking those people in. They took Palestinians in before. Some of that still happens, like you grease some palms and they come over, whatever. But they cannot absorb 2 million people out of Gaza, nor should they have to. And those people should have to leave anyway. But they don't have anywhere to go. And what kind of life is it? You're just going to be living in tents somewhere else. And I promise you, it wouldn't matter
My
because
well.
Israel would say, "Oh, we can't have this Palestinian encampment right on the border. We're going to go in there and get them."
Well.
It wouldn't matter because they did that in Lebanon. They
My
bombed the
dad.
Palestinians in
My dad
Lebanon.
left
They went to
Lebanon.
Lebanon
Right.
and then they got attacked in Lebanon.
My dad left Lebanon at 18 and came to the United States, and thank God for that. No, I can't justify. There's no
Most of them
justification.
couldn't even buy a plane ticket to go to the U.S., much less go to the U.S. and get a house. Like
Right,
it's not
right,
happening.
right, and he came here basically homeless, but he was able to.
And you need a visa and da 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 da. Yeah.
Yeah, or I mean, I have seen interviews of Palestinians that have come up through this southern border on Jorge Ventura's Instagram, which is pretty trippy.
Probably from West Bank though. The people in Gaza are literally walled in. They don't have a seaport, they don't have an airport, and they have a wall with guns pointed at them. It's been like that. And the blame's got to be on the Israelis. Like, if you cannot pretend to aim at peace while you simultaneously colonize your neighbors. Like, this is 18th century type crap. Like, go
Yeah,
in,
yeah, yeah.
this
Yep.
is Bronze Age morality and some of this. The President's Herzog talking about animals and how Palestinians mothers give birth to snakes and stuff. Like, they've completely dehumanized these people because sometimes the Palestinians attack them. I go, gee, I wonder why anyone would do that. Any population that was treated the way they are probably would have been worse. Like, prior to October 7th, 248 Palestinians have been murdered. 48 of those were children by the Israelis during peacetime. Imagine if 248 Jews had been murdered from January to October, and then they reacted, and the whole world acted like that didn't happen, and they just attacked out of the blue for no reason because of prejudice or something. Like, they attacked you because you are constantly killing them by the hundreds
So
And there's nothing there. They tried everything else. They tried a giant march for peace through 2018, 19. They tried putting the money into hospitals and infrastructure. You just blow it up. So like, okay, they attacked and they knew if we go uppercut this giant, he's going to step on us. Oh well, let the world see it because they have no other way out.
so let me ask you this about October 7th. Is October 7th, was that, is that whole thing, is any of that staged? Does Israel know? Like, there's this thought like, hey, how could Israel not know and not have defended their border? But
That
I've
is
al
one of the opinions that Israelis had intelligence and they let it happen because they wanted to react to it.
like, they owned
Other
all your
opinion is
pagers and
just
all your walkie-talkies. How did they not know?
yeah, which is an act of terrorism. The pager thing disproportionately attacked nurses because that's who has pagers. They just blow it, killing civilians, and then go, oh, Hezbollah, whatever. That was in Lebanon. No, it may have been. It was on a Jewish holiday. There's a lot of those though, but a lot of them, it was something they were definitely onto and looking at. And they're like, we'll have a meeting in the morning. But they attacked a few hours before that meeting occurred, proving whether or not they allowed it
There
to
is some
happen or
evidence of that?
something.
There's some
There is some
documentation?
evidence. There
Okay.
is. So there is some weight to that opinion, proving it's a little harder. But regardless, the majority of the deaths on October 7th was Israelis killing Israelis with the Hannibal Directive. And
Wait,
Haaretz
wait,
admitted
wait, wait.
this.
Say that again. I
Israeli.
didn't.
So Israelis did not want Hamas to have hostages. So their plan, their idea, they have a directive, the Hannibal Directive. Rather than allowing them to take hostages, you just kill them both. And if you look at all those cars and stuff from the music festival, the Nova Music Festival, they're all charred up from Apache Hellfire missiles. Hamas doesn't possess anything that can incinerate a car like that. The best thing they had is probably a RPG-7, and that's just not going to do that. We have witnesses who survived from the kibbutzes where they took tanks and just leveled buildings with Israelis in them
So
and
wait, let me
killed
let
them
me
too.
let me go back to what you said. You're suggesting that the IDF killed more Israelis than Hamas killed on October 7th.
Yeah, and it wasn't just Hamas, there were other militant groups, but all those combined did not kill as many people. It's about half and half, but like they killed
Ho
their own.
how many of the, bad guys, sorry, let me use a different word, Hamas and the other groups were killed? Has that been
On
reported?
October 7th,
Yeah.
it was a pretty small operation. They went and took out the Golani Brigade while they were asleep. Um, a lot
But
of
I
see in
mean,
Israel, they have mandatory service, and half of them are women. So that when they got into real combat, they just died. Some of them didn't even wake up. Just they just never thought, oh, they'll never reach us, and then they did.
let me do the math here a second. So you're saying of the 1,100 Israelis or 1,300 Israelis, however many it was, that was killed on October 7th, half of those were killed by friendly fire?
About 600 were from the music festival and in the kibbutzes by Hannibal Directive. Yeah,
So then I would have to think that 1,800, 3 to 1, the Hamas guys were killed.
not really. I mean, there's far more hostages than there are militants. A militant can take more than a hostage per
Holy
gunman,
shit.
right?
I've never
So
heard this. Do they admit this? Does Israel admit this?
some Israelis admit it, the others continue to lie about it. But a lot of Israelis lie about stuff that doesn't even matter. Like they'll lie about everything. But in Israeli newspapers and from Israeli officials, they admit that the Hannibal Directive was carried out. There's no, I mean, the physical evidence of all these automobiles that are charged shows like, okay, you had to do that because Hamas doesn't have the means to do that. And then you have the survivors of the attack who were not taken hostage say, I was there with about 22 others. There were two Hamas. The tanks opened fired. Me and this other woman were the only survivors. So they killed 20 Israelis, two Hamas, and then two people survived. The Israelis killing each other. They didn't want hostages. And here's the thing of the hostages, if you wanted all the hostages back, you could do that in a day by doing a hostage exchange. They have thousands of Palestinian prisoners who they rape and torture that they could release.
In Israel?
In Israel, they have taken them from the West Bank and Gaza. Whenever they want, they can just arrest someone for being a male of fighting age. They'll just throw you in jail. No court, no due process law. You go to jail. They've put children in there who've grown up in jail. There are people who've been in jail so long they can't see past 15 feet because their eyes have always had walls around them. It's disgusting. It got so bad that Israelis who decided for some reason Abu Ghraib style to film what they were doing were raping Palestinians with like hot iron rods that are shoving up their rectums and things, like raping these people. And finally, the Israelis said, whoa, you can't do that. Not because they think rape is wrong, but because they think filming it is wrong because it's bad PR. But what happened was the Israelis rioted on the rapist side because they feel like they have the God-given right to rape the goyim. And these guys went around on Israeli TV like international heroes for raping prisoners. That's a sick society. Like, that's not a few bad apples. It's a few good apples. That place is rotten to the core when you can justify prison rape. Meanwhile, of every single hostage released from Hamas, nothing happened to them. They weren't raped. They weren't beaten. They weren't starved. They were treated. They had like the rights that a prisoner has as a POW. Now, it's wrong to take someone hostage against their will already, but and that there's no justifying that. But I understand how it got to that point, because if you're going to take thousands of their people hostage, then they're going to grab some of yours and try and force an exchange. And that did happen in November 2023. This is only like a month or so after October 7th. They exchanged women and children mostly. And so they got some prisoners out of Palestine and they got the hostages out of Palestine and out of Israel. You could have done that for everybody, but Netanyahu didn't want to. Leaving the hostages there gives him a pretext to just start murdering families. Even when they told him, go to this safe zone, and then they bombed the safe zone. Like, this is definitely an extermination policy. They're trying to kill them. They want to abuse and murder so many of them that the moment they can leave, they're all going to leave. And then Israel's going to annex all of the land. Like, aha, they took it from you. We got it all. And it won't be enough, because then they're going to go, oh, we'd like to go up to the Litani River in Lebanon next. They already annexed part of Syria too. Greater Israel is not a myth. That is something they plan on doing. And they are willing to murder whoever they want because there's no consequences globally for their actions. They got a sanction by Norway a little, in Ireland or whatever. It doesn't impact them enough. Until the United States throws this parasite out the window, Israel can continue to murder with impunity and get away with it.
Let me ask you this. Do you see any value for religion in the world?
If it's interpreted in a way that is beneficial to people, sure. I don't have a problem with Taoism or Buddhism or certain versions of Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, but those aren't the predominant ones. Like, religion got hijacked by politics a long time ago. And in the monotheistic faith, it was kind of intrinsically that way, because the whole justification of the divine right of kings or sultan or whatever is from the faith. So even the ancient pharaohs, like, we're the ruler and we're God. Like, when you start mixing religion and politics, so you have that dogmatic authoritarianism also with the power of a state, it's not a good combo. If you want to have a theology about the cosmos and the origin of life and what consciousness is, or how you should live and treat people, fine, all good, whatever makes you a better person. But that's not what happens. Like, when you start saying, God told me to do this violent thing, and then like, okay, no, he didn't. Like, that's when you cross a line. When you're like mutilating baby penises, like, well, we got to circumcise you. Why? Well, it goes back to when, our all-loving God decided to murder all the first born children of Egypt. Like, that should be rejected outright. You should not murder all the firstborn sons of anybody. That is fucking wrong. Like, and you should know that's wrong. Like, most of the stuff in the Old Testament, Yahweh might as well be one of the Satans, because he acts just like a demon.
When back to the Palestinian Israeli thing, do you have is the solution? Sorry, hold that thought. Going back, there's something you said in a podcast. You said, yeah, I can't, it was a YouTube podcast. You're like, I can't tell you the big picture of what's going on because They won't allow it here. Is the big picture simply what's going on, that there are, and I love the way you, if I understood the way you explained it, there's people who have control of the people through blackmail who give the money that gets people elected into office.
Yeah, that's close.
Okay.
The the
And
the
is it
donor
as
class,
simple?
we can call them, the donor
Okay.
class.
Before
And
you
it's
jump
been
in,
like that since Grant and Lincoln, like the
oh,
lobbyists, where you get the term lobby from, where they met in hotel lobbies with the interest groups. But it took another leap when, like, at least with Grant, it was the railroad and steel companies within the northern half of the United States. It wasn't foreigners yet. It's gotten
but
to the point where you have a foreign lobby controlling US policy against US interest.
and is it all people diddling kids? Is it all people fucking kids? Is that like the ultimate,
It's
like,
not all kids. Some of them diddle adults with extramarital affairs and whatnot, and prostitutes. But and some of it's adult, but it's homosexual, which is still taboo. So that's good blackmail. But man, I'm sad to say a large chunk of it is with children.
because I was gonna say no one could there. I don't think anyone could like if you were like, hey, we got you fucking the neighbor. I'd be like, all right, fuck it, go ahead, tell my wife.
If you're a billionaire and you could lose half your wealth because you're married, then it matters.
Well, I just wouldn't, by any means, I wouldn't want to go to jail.
Yeah, well, they won't. They got enough money to stay out of
But if
that.
you
But their
diddle
wife
kids, like,
can. It is a real threat that your wife will divorce you and you're going to lose,
half your
half.
kids. But if you
That's a
diddle kids, you should be
yeah.
fucking.
Oh, you should be castrated. I like,
Yeah, you should have your.
or
The only noble thing to do, I hate to say it, is to kill
you
yourself.
should be transgender. You should be trans.
Trans, yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Like that's a punishment. It ought to be. And they do it to children. They like can brainwash these people. Like you're actually a girl. Take these hormones. That is like Dr. Satan level. Ooh, should be illegal.
Is it really this simple? Is it really uh I'm Jeffrey Epstein. You come to my house. Um, I send in 4 underage boys into the room. I give everyone drugs and alcohol. Next thing you know, you're some 6-year-old kid's blowing you, and then before you leave, you're like, "Hey, um, Bill or whoever the guy is." Jeff says to Bill, "Hey, just so you know, I got footage of you getting a blowjob from a 6-year-old. You better do whatever I say." It's like that.
All except for that, his house part. Usually it would be at a third party's house, usually some music mogul or something that so it's not on my property. I don't they get plausible deniability or it's at a hotel. They
So it's
wouldn't
not like,
normally
oh shit,
do
this
it
is
in their own
crazy.
home. Epstein was stupid because he did do things in his own home and he had cameras everywhere, and that's why they replaced him. You don't want a drug dealer, dipping in their own stash. And this guy got so arrogant. He had wired up his houses and things for him and Maxwell, their own jolly. I have this hypothesis that from the 90s onward, where pornography was on the internet, and so it wasn't just like in a magazine somewhere, 7-Eleven you could buy whenever, like it's just everywhere, that perverts became disproportionately visual. They need to see it because that's what they're wired to masturbate to, whatever. And so these people started filming all their stuff and keeping it. He had CDs, right? When they raided their if you're on a CD, not a thumb drive, not like a CD, that means that bit had been going on since CDs were the way you would record things. So at least the early 90s, Epstein and Maxwell were doing that. And it's really dumb to incriminate yourself and to have such things on your property that could be discovered. Normally, in a normal, like Mickey Cohen style blackmail operation, Bobby Baker, Nygaard, one of the other more
That's the
professional
old school
kitty killers.
dudes? Are those old school
Yeah,
guys?
those are well, Nygaard's not that old. He's in jail right now, but he is 80s.
What's his name?
Um,
What's his first name?
Peter Nygaard was a billionaire out of Canada who had a property in the Bahamas where he'd have these parties, and mostly he'd just buy a bunch of prostitutes, and he had a scat fetish and all that. And that's
Like
like
McAfee. Like McAfee. McAfee had people
McAfee was
shit in his
drugged
mouth,
out of his
right?
mind. He used to live on my island. He lived in Frisco and Cape Hatteras for a long time. He had a boat, always smelled like fish. Yeah, and he would have girls like lay in a hammock and poo on them so he could like see the hole open and it come through the netting and whatever. That guy was on designer drugs, like stuff like bath salts were minor to him. So, yeah.
I just remember them interviewing a lady. They're like, "And he forced you to have sex?" And the prostitute's like, "No." He's like, "He
My
raped you?"
word.
She's like, "No." And then finally, she's like, I shit in his mouth." I was like, "Holy fuck."
Well,
Okay.
Nygaard would have them wear like adult diapers, and I don't want. It doesn't matter. It's ugh, ugh.
Hey, here's the
Like,
here's the thing. Here's the thing. It's important that some of this shit is. Let me pivot from here. I want
imagine
to.
how humiliating it would be if you're a politician in a diaper
Yeah.
and they want you to like go sit in a pie and cry like a squat cobbler or shit yourself, whatever. Like they want the most humiliating, compromising thing possible because it's an insurance policy. It's like, I know you will never betray the thing I'm not allowed to say on YouTube because
Wait.
we
What aren't you allowed
gotcha.
to say on YouTube? Betray.
You will immediately get canceled if I tell you who it is. But it's someone we were talking about earlier, but I'm not going to say the organization. But we'll just say Israelis. Well, that way, they're the ones in charge. This group targets the donor class. A lot of people, they get it wrong. They think they're blackmailing congressmen and people, judges, and people with political power. No, they bribe them. You can bribe people who are poor or mid. You can't bribe the uber wealthy. If they're already a billionaire, what are you going to give them? You always blackmail the wealthy and bribe the poor. Congressmen are interchangeable. They can lose their seat and get a new one. Then you got to start over again.
That's a
So
good
they
tweet. That's a
they
good tweet.
use UDP and APAC to bribe Congress. If you blackmail the donor class, then you own what they own because the donors already own Congress. So if you get the major mega donors, then everyone below them is now yours. And so the group, I'm not going to say from Israel, they go after the donor class.
Does it
And
start with an
some of the
M? Does it
donor
start with an
class are
M?
ideologically in line and love Israel and would do it anyway, but like you're still going to compromise yourself because we're not going to risk you leaving the group. So they willingly go through these humiliation rituals.
Does it start with an M?
Did someone in chat say that?
Oh, the chat's going fucking berserk. I can't even read the chat
Well,
because
one of
they.
the nicknames is Mega for Mega Donors. That there was a mega group
When
that
you ring,
that
when
was
you
born out of the Sunborn. Go watch New Mech again with that in mind, because I say it in that movie. So.
when you ring, when you're in conversations with people and you ring the bell, what is that?
Oh,
That's
this thing, yeah,
yeah.
it's
What?
like my censorship bell.
Oh
It
yeah,
almost it almost became a Zog whistle, Zionist occupation government,
yeah,
because you're not allowed to say Israel or Jew or anything in any nuanced way on a lot of social media platforms. Even though I'm not prejudiced toward anybody, and I understand Israel's a state. I don't believe in biological teleology or race realism or any of that crap. But when it gets to certain people, we just say like, "Oh," and it lets you know, "Oh, Paul Wolfowitz, yeah, he's on the team." Like these are people working against the United States. They might be Americans, but they write policy papers for Netanyahu, the head of a foreign, a foreign
yeah.
state, like Richard Pearl did. So I do this little bell. And it used to just be whatever you're not allowed to say. But almost everything you're not allowed to say involves that country. So people
Yeah.
called it the Zog whistle.
The word
Not a
Zionist.
whistle either, but
The word Zionist, according to Google AI, is advocating for the establishment and maintenance of a Jewish homeland.
on top of a land that other people already occupied. That's the part they leave out.
So
Zionism is Jewish supremacy. And Jewish
is it?
supremacy is the
Are you?
largest category. And Zionism is Jewish supremacy with a particular land grab. And they'll say, like if you were the very early Zionist that even Einstein and stuff supported in the super beginning, it
Yeah.
was just refugees from the Holocaust that needed a place to practice their
Yeah.
religion and
That's what
culture,
I
and
think it is. Yeah.
that's fun. Well, it
Yeah.
ain't though. It quickly, very quickly, with the Irgun and Stern Gang terrorists, Palmach and Haganah, these groups just became little Nazis themselves, where they want to be the ones that ethnically cleanse and have racial purity and all that crap. And there is an element of Jewish
Well, they're doing a
supremacy.
shitty job. There's only 12 million of them. They're doing a horrible
Well,
job, aren't they?
that's because of their marriage restrictions where, like, only a Jew can marry a Jew, so if they would
Yeah.
open that up, they'd have a lot more children, but
I had
they
a
because
Zionist
of
on the
their
other day.
racism,
Yeah.
because they have to have this racial purity, which again, I don't agree with, is only in their own head. They think, well, Jews have to breed with other Jews because we
Yeah.
have to keep the bloodline the way it is because we're better than these dirty goyim, whatever. So that's what's limited how many members they have or whatever. But
I
and
had this.
even when a goy gets in, like, okay, you can marry this person, they say they have this, like, the rabbis have this loophole, but, like, actually that was a lost Jewish soul in a goy's body,
Oh,
and he's
right.
come back to the tribe or whatever. It's so dumb.
I had a
I
rabbi
mean,
on.
these people have they like sling chickens around their head where they cast the sins into an animal and they murder an innocent animal. Like, it's barbaric and dumb. And it's like the whole red heifer sacrifice and temples and stuff. Like, you are mentally ill. You've been brainwashed. You're out there with animal sacrifices. You think you're the chosen race of a deity that tells you to murder children. You are just as fucked as Nazis with their pseudoscience. And so, like, okay, you made it religious, but you still a racist. Like, you are absolutely irredeemable if you're going to go out and just take someone's home, take a family, put them somewhere else. That's if you don't kill them, and just take their stuff and be like, God gave it to me. Nah. God is not a real estate agent.
Um, not justifying it as not justifying it at all, but this is something that's happening everywhere on the planet with all religions, all people,
Yeah, it's
people
been
who are
wrong every time. Like,
right,
it was
right.
manifest destiny was wrong. The difference
What does
is
that
other
mean?
people
Manifest destiny is wrong,
that
like
was the
claiming that it's your
excuse of we
right.
get to kill American Indians because this land is for Europeans or whatever. Like, justifying slavery with the Bible was, yeah, it's in there, but so it's wrong. Now they say it's wrong. Uh, Child marriages are wrong. A lot of stuff they used to do, stoning people to death. Probably shouldn't do that. There's plenty of things you can point to in religious texts that we don't do anymore. We don't have divine right of kings in the West. We have republics and democracy and representative, but all throughout the Bible is kings. Romans 13:1, like, you're supposed to have a monarchy. But religion is as religion does. And so it is, however, is practiced as. But, as you advance, ethnically, morally, philosophically, you're supposed to adjust. Like, we don't need to act this way anymore. Witches aren't real, so we can't have witch burnings. But see, you can't burn witches unless that's predicated on the fact that you think witches even exist at all. If you didn't believe in witches, you couldn't have witch burnings. But the fact that people do believe that a witch is even a possibility is how you end up having women who definitely were not witches burned. Now you can say, "Oh no, that was all political." Men would marry women much younger than them, and then that man would die, and they need that woman's holding on to all his property, and they get rid of her, freeze it up, so other people can grab his farm. But yeah, I know what the all commercial incentive was, but you still needed a pretext to get rid of that woman, which they used was saying she's a witch. Da, da, da. That wouldn't work without a belief in witches. So a lot of this evil stuff, like, even if you have Israelis that don't really believe in Judaism at all, they might be atheists, they might be whatever, they might even have some other religion, doesn't matter. They still can use it to say, well, this is my land because I'm a Jew and we're returning from 3,000 years ago. These other people don't belong here. Da, da, da. It gives them a vehicle to do evil and have a whole mass of Christian Zionists that will give it a thumbs up and go, yep, all these evangelicals they support it, like, that's their land, and according to the Exodus or whatever. Like,
Yeah, that's unfortunately that's where I'm stuck. Let me ask you this: is it also not true, like the story that I read that um a couple um the October 7 guys that rolled into Israel. I don't know what to call them anymore now that you told me that they're not all Hamas, but
it's mainly Hamas, yeah.
okay, let's say probably some Hamas guys. The story I read is that they took this couple, they chopped off her tits, they chopped off his dick, they tied their arms together, and then they put their baby in an oven and turned the oven on and made them watch them burn the baby. Then I didn't hear
Yeah,
you talk about that story
that definitely
specific.
did not happen.
That didn't happen? So
That's
how
a
do you
Rabbi Shmuley story. Like they chopped off their breasts and played football with them, and they hung babies on the clothesline, and there were 40 beheaded babies. And then they, it's like, and then they raped the corpses, and then the corpses got pregnant. It's just more. It's just like soap and lampshade level stupid. Hamas is doing a military raid. They do not have time with the Israelis coming to kill them. They went and they got the Golani Brigade. They're trying to get hostages and bring them back to Gaza. Anybody they can capture alive and bring back to Gaza. That's the whole point of the operation, is to get hostages so that you can exchange them to get your own hostages out.
Mm,
They're not going to sit there and play around and amputate body parts or
mm.
rape people or oven a baby. The baby's very valuable if you just take it back to Gaza. There's no evidence that they did any of this stuff. There were no rapes on October 7th, none. No prisoners who have been in they totally controlled by Hamas for a year and more were not raped. They did not go in the middle of a military operation and stop and have sex with somebody, when if they took them back to Gaza, they could rape her every day. Like, it just didn't happen. No babies got beheaded, none. That rumor was started by David Ben Zion, who's a settler who was wearing an IDF uniform. He told it to some Australian reporter who reported it. She immediately reneged her report on Twitter, but they
I
grabbed
don't
it
think you can
anyway, and
say
it was
that,
all like
reneged,
40
by the way.
beheaded babies,
Yeah.
40 beheaded babies. Oh, did you sit there and count the little stumps or something? They were okay. 40 beheaded babies. Where are their parents? Where are their grandparents? What are their names? Like, no, because that's made up. And it's stupid because people were shot, people were taken hostage, they got killed. That is enough. You don't have to start getting into this cartoonish level evil, and then they put them on the electric floor or something. Like, there's no reason to make that up. And when you do, it makes people start doubting the horrible things that actually did happen.
Are those your critical thinking skills that allow you to say that? Because it makes total sense. Like, I think that when they're like, they raped that girl, I'm like, you're telling me that 5 guys went in there and one of them got their dick hard and fucked her? Like, I'm like, I can't imagine it, right? You know what I mean? And is that what you do too? You're like critically
You're
thinking, you're
not,
like,
yeah. Well,
"Hey,
first of
there's no
all, there's
fucking
no
way that
evidence of
happened."
it. Like,
What?
did the woman live? Did they rape her and kill her? Because if they raped her, they didn't kill her. She would say, "Hey, I got raped," and no one did that. And even of all their prisoners, every single woman they've released, there's actually, this is really sad. One woman they released who wasn't touched. They would hardly look at her or whatever. The worst thing she could think of is a kid said, "Hey, you want a lollipop?" Nah, and then didn't give it to her. Like, the fact that that was something she could point to, like, wow, you have nothing else going on. That woman went back to Israel and then got raped by an Israeli. She was safer with Hamas than she was in
Is
her
that
own
true? Is that
country.
true? She got
Yeah,
raped when she came
she
back to
got
Israel
raped
after.
when she returned. The Israeli military will routinely rape people in Cyprus. They'll go there, they have mandatory service. They all go to Cyprus like right before they join the army and fuck prostitutes. And sometimes that's not enough. So they'll rape tourists. And it's just, there's nothing they can do about it.
G g Would you say that, Muslims all over the world routinely, rape, women?
Well, no, because Muslims all over the world are very different from one another. If you're talking about like ISIS, I don't
I'm
think
just
they
talking
have
about,
a
like, the shit
problem.
that we're hearing that's happening in England right now, or the shit happening in Ireland, or, like, the rape gangs, or just
Oh
you know,
yeah, well,
the
there are
sto
rape gangs. There are rape gangs that are Muslim. There are rape gangs that are whatever. But I don't think they're raping because they're Muslim. I think they're raping because they're third world trash.
well,
Like,
because
you
they're
see
men,
the
because 'cause
same.
they're men, right? Because 'Cause they're
We
men. I
see
mean,
the same thing with like Mexican rapists that come across. They're not doing that because they're Catholic, although they are Catholic. All of Mexico is Catholic, but they're
right.
raping because they're shitty,
Well,
cartel
that's
assholes.
why I bring it up because, like, you're saying that the IDF soldiers are going to, Cyprus to
Well,
rape,
I'm
but
not saying they're doing it because they're Jewish. I'm saying they're doing it because they're Israelis.
or you're okay, well,
They're doing it because they can get away with rape. Like, if you the same thing like with the Pakistani rape gangs, if the police aren't going to properly punish you, then they'll do that all day.
right, and that is the
If
fact. I mean,
they
we
if they did, they're like,
yeah.
"Oh, the jails are full. Build a new one." Like, if they punish them, then a lot of that would be mitigated. But because they're a minority or whatever, and it's bad, something for some reason, Britain's just weird. they're just going to let certain groups act like that, then those
Well, we
groups
have it
will act
going on
like
in the
that.
United States too. It's slowly
Yeah.
coming to a halt, but the cops after the BLM riots, cops were just like didn't matter if you were black, you could just do basically whatever you wanted.
Yep. And it's, a lot of that stems back to the welfare state, if you want to look at the root of it. And, racists will go, well, how come so many more black women kick dad out of the house than whites or some other group? Like, yeah, you can blame fatherless households for a lot of why people end up, with a series of different negative attributes. But I think the reason that there are more black baby mamas is about mindset. And it comes back to like all through public school is beating in your head about slavery. Definitely wrong, definitely unjustifiable. But if that was the problem, the further you got away from the legacy of slavery, the better things ought to get. And that's not what happened. There were more intact black families in the 50s than there are today. And a lot of it is because liberals infantilize people, and if they're going to pay the mom to get rid of the dad, she'll get rid of the dad, even though the dad provides things that are far greater than what are monetarily measurable. He might not bring in as much money as the government, but dads provide other things, structure and things for the kids that you can't just replace by throwing cash at it. But the mindset is different because a white person on welfare generally is ashamed of it. That poor white guy will work 5 different part-time jobs to avoid being on welfare. Whereas a black mother will be like, her attitude is, well, you owe me this shit, slavery, whatever. And so there is no shame in accepting it. And you can see this clear example between Native Americans on a reservation versus not. The ones that left the
Wow.
reservation really don't, they're actually doing slightly better than whites on average. The ones on the reservation, 3 deviations below the poverty line, is actually the poorest group in the United States. If you look at black married college age couples, they earn more than white married college age couples, or they did as recently as 2020, last time I looked at it, on an average. So like if you apply yourself and you're African American, you're fine. The United States is not prejudiced to blacks. I'm not saying there is nobody. There's racists everywhere, but they're not. It's not institutionalized. It's quite the opposite. You're actually favored to jobs with affirmative action, which has just been replaced by DEI, and you're favored for college admittance and so on. So you have every advantage. If you're failing, it's because of your own mindset. And a lot of that is from welfare. Like it had good intentions, like, oh, if we give people money. But if you give selfish people money, they just spend it on themselves. That mom doesn't necessarily use that money on their kids' education. Da, 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 da. She just goes and gets their nails done and her hair done and whatever. Like that's why then they change it to food stamps. Like, okay, you have to buy food with these. Nope, they can go exchange those easily and then go get a pair of Oakleys or whatever, like throwing money at the problem. People don't need money. People need jobs. If you want to straighten people out, give them work. Don't give them cash. That's the Workfare program. Locke Faircloth proposed it out of North Carolina. It never got anywhere, but that's what they do in Japan. Japan doesn't have welfare. Japan has Workfare. If you have no job or you're between jobs, you lose your job, whatever, you can go to what's called Harawak, and they will get what's the no smile jobs, the nickname. They will give you some bullshit to do. So if you're out there and they just give you tissue paper, like toilet paper, and you just stand with a little advertisement on the top, you stand at the train station, onegaishimasu, onegaishimasu, just sit there and hand it to people all day. They will pay you to do that. Because rather than just giving you money, but you get to keep all your leisure time, if you just give people money, they're going to sit at home, play Xbox, watch Netflix, collect money. And they're like, why should I work if the low level job I get makes the same amount as the government gives me, but I don't have any leisure time? Then why should I get that job? I should just sit at home and collect and I make the same amount of money and I have all my free time.
Yep. Yep.
Well, the Japanese and at least one guy from North Carolina, I saw around that, say, no, you're not going to get your free time. We'll give you the money, but you're going to go out, and they have a series of different jobs. One is like handing out paper or whatever. And you're going to do some Mendakusai crap all day.
Is that a
And you're going to
Japanese
hate
word?
it.
Mendakusai? Do you speak
Yeah, it
Japanese?
means like tedious. It doesn't have a direct translation. It's like it literally means too much effort, but it means too much effort for what the result is, or something like. Here's an example: something that's hard but easy. If I told you, can you count to 20,000? You know how, you know all the series of numbers between 1 and 20,000, but could you really do it? It would be very difficult because
Yeah.
it's just monotonous and boring. And what is this for? And that's what makes it hard, is the grit hard, not intellectually hard. It's grit hard. They give you grit hard stuff. Mendoxai work is just like over and over again doing some simple thing, but it's not simple after you do it that many times, whatever. So
Do you
it's
speak
literally, you dig a
Japanese,
ditch, you
Ryan?
feel. Yeah, I lived there 17 years. I live in Korea now. So 2 years here, 17 years there. I think it's a
Are
great
you married
system
to an
though.
Asian woman?
I am. 3 kids too. All sons, 3 for 3.
Oh yeah, me too. 3 sons. Well done. Was she born in that country, or she born in Japan?
Well, I'm not gonna give her information out because
Okay.
not that it's because I have haters online and we
Right.
just, yeah. So,
Yeah.
so
Uh, yeah, Mr. Beast got famous. He counted to 100,000 live. I had heard that.
well, okay, great. See, in a weird situation where you now have this advent of a computer and everybody watching you and something, and then it's not as hard because if money's coming in as you're counting, there's an incentive. I'm saying just go count to that number and you don't get any reward. You're not going to do it, And so it's like nobody wants to sit there and put packages on ice cream all day or whatever.
Let,
And
let,
they have a machine that'll do that. They're like, no, 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 no. People who are out of work are going to do this so that we'll give them money, but they have an incentive to go get a real job.
let me ask you a big picture question. Real big picture. Huge picture.
It was Lincoln's
100,000
fault.
100,000
Okay.
years into the future. Do we rather these um Israeli blackmailing um leaders run the world, or do we rather I don't know, any Sharia law leaders, or do we rather the beheading Muslim, uh cover your women, rape little boys, uh run the world? So sorry, I'm just trying to make sweeping
I don't
generalizations.
think it makes a dime's worth of difference because a lot of these beheading jihadist ISIS groups were purposely fostered as that by intelligence agencies, starting with the Mujahideen in Afghanistan. If you
You
look
think
at
culturally
Afghanistan,
though, but before you go down the road, you think
it's not
culturally,
no, yeah. So it's not
you
a
think
natural
culturally those
byproduct
are,
of Islam.
if you had, okay, so if you had to pick a culture to be like, okay, hey, I'm gonna give you the world, you would give it to Muslims over Jews or
I'd give
Christians
it to South Korea
or Buddhists because their subways clean and shit like that, right?
because they don't have religion really, and or Japan, whatever. I don't want dom. I like actual multiculturalism. I like there to be differentiation. I want to see Italian stuff in Italy. I want to see, you know what I mean?
Right.
I don't want
I know.
one to rule the world.
Me
But if you're
neither.
gonna pick,
Right.
yeah, they're not running around chopping heads anymore. But what you have to understand is
Who's
Zionism
not running around chopping heads? The
and Sharia
Zionists?
law and all that. Well, the
Yeah.
samurai used to do that if you go
Right.
back far enough. They don't
Right.
do that now. So,
Right.
um, but if these are not um, purely organic products of faith or anything. This had an infusion of government. They radicalized Islam to fight the atheist communists in the Soviet Union, and they created a Frankenstein when they did so. If you
Mm.
look at Afghanistan, even in the 1970s, women were wearing shorts and what it wasn't. They didn't have to cover their hair, whatever. They had different sects. They were the Punjabi, they got along with each other, fair enough. Then you look at it only a decade later when the CIA gets in there fostering Islamic militants like Osama bin Laden and others. You got a complete cultural change. The groups in Syria that were grilling body parts and eating hearts and chopping heads off, machine gunning women up against the wall from a Ralal Sham al Nusra front now called HTS, even the FSA, the moderate rebels. Those nuts are mercenaries from all over the world. There's people from Tajikistan, Chechnya, all Muslims from all over the world taking a paycheck, pushing this on. Even Jolani, though, hasn't gone in full Sharia, but they did go around and murder Sharia. Sorry, they murdered Shia, they murdered Christians, they murdered Druze. Even they kill mostly killing other Muslims. Muslim on Muslim crime is like black on black crime. The majority of Muslims have been murdered by other Muslims, at least in Syria. The factions fighting in Iraq after the war the same way, with Sunni and Shia and Kurds killing each other. But interestingly, prior to 2003, they weren't doing that. They all lived there. They were all the same religion they were the next day, whatever. But it wasn't like that. What happens is, if you make a faction that engages in religious nepotism, so Sunni only hire other Sunni, or Jews only hire other Jews, or Shia only hire Shia, whatever, then it forces all the other groups to react in kind. We're like, well, we can't let them in power, or they will only distribute all the jobs themselves and we're out. If you don't have a secular regime that bases things on merit, that everyone has an opportunity to get something, then even if you don't believe in your little in-group nepotism, you are forced to do it anyway. It's kind of like if your neighbor has a giant military, now you need a military because they can get. So that they wrote this out in policy papers. Oded Yanan, famous Israeli, 1982, he writes it out. We are going to foster sectarian religious infighting in Lebanon and Syria. And they did the same thing in Iraq, where Kurds and Shia leaders and Sunni leaders were not like that until this huge influx of cash from the CIA and other groups that want them to tear each other down, because you can't police them. You have to get them to police themselves. There's just too many. There's a billion Muslims. And this super radical version, the same thing with Zionists. Like, they put the most radical, insane version of Judaism possible in Israel from the beginning. When they tried to make Albert Einstein the president, because Israel has a president and a prime minister, he refused.
They
In
did.
fact,
I
not
didn't know
only
that. They tried to
they
make the
did,
president? I didn't know that.
yeah, look it up. They wanted Albert Einstein. Good choice. Albert Einstein's an atheist. Well, he kind of believed in this Spinoza monad, whatever, but he's not Jewish. But anyway, he
Einstein's not a
rejected
Jew?
it. Well, he's ethnically Jewish, but he wasn't religious. He
Oh,
was
okay.
his mom was a Jew, I guess. Well, actually, she's a mathematician, whatever. So Einstein said, you are akin to the fascists of Mussolini. You are what we just escaped. You cannot have, he thought it was stupid to have a Jewish state as it was to have a Jewish chair or a Jewish bus or a Jewish table. Like, a table is a table. Like, a bus is a bus. You can't have a state for an ethnic group. That's what we just got rid of.
But isn't that what Germany is, or Finland is, or
What's
Panama
what
is?
Germany was? Well, no, anyone could live in Germany or Finland.
Oh, anyone could
Uh,
live in Israel too, though, right?
No, not anyone, and not with the same rights. They have different laws for Jews and non-Jews, so it's an apartheid. You can be a minority and live in Israel if they accept you, but you will never be at the same level and have the same rights as a Jewish Israeli.
Isn't kind of like Mexico like that too? Even though Mexicans are kind of, I mean, that's a pretty big psyop they ran on those people.
Well, it's not
But you
like
can't like own property or
Iceland is
something there.
almost all white. It's only 300,000 people, but it's not a law that it has to be
What's
that way.
300,000 people?
Iceland.
Oh, Iceland. Yeah, right. Well, they're getting kind.
They'll complain about like Korean birth rates. I'm like, Korea is the same area as Iceland, and it has 51 million people, and Iceland has 300,000. When you get to 51 million, we'll see what happens to your birth rate on the same landmass.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you something crazy. That's really blasphemous. Iceland is a world class shithole. Have
Is
you
it?
been? It's just a giant slab of fucking rock. It's useless. No one should live there for more than a month at a time. Just a slab of rock with waterfalls. It's a cool place to visit.
Still
Like the
better
fuck.
than New Jersey?
No, not even close. I mean,
Wow.
I'm telling you, Iceland is like it's Yosemite without the good shit.
I think an introvert loves what you just said, though. They're like rock and waterfalls. Yeah.
Then go to the fucking desert. Moab's your spot. The desert's way. I mean, Iceland
Tell
is.
you what, though, they got some big dudes.
But yeah, yeah.
See, they got
Okay,
some eugenic monster giant people over there.
you have a absolutely fascinating brain. It holds a ton of stuff with a ton of great connections that it's making. Can I ask you some fun stuff now?
Yeah, let's go.
Oh, okay.
Let's not talk about terrorism and baby murder.
All the well, this we might end up there too. All the Jews. Oh, one more question before we get to the is Trump a cool dude or not, or do they have video of him that he doesn't want getting out? But
Outside of politics, would he be fun to have dinner with? I think
yeah,
so.
me too.
Like,
But let me ask you this. So what should Israel? What's the thing for Israel? How do we like in a perfect
it's
place? Do you
so
just pick?
easy. Israel could do a hostage exchange and have a ceasefire,
We don't have to move
and
them
then
all to New York. Why don't we just move them all to New York? Do you
you
think
mean
that they
back
should?
to New York?
Yeah, well, why not
Like,
just get rid of it? Do you think that there's like,
they
hey,
just
let's
go
just
live
get
in
rid?
Wilmington, or a lot of them are from New York anyway, and that's where a lot of them are when this whole conflict started. Most of them just went
But you
home.
say they took that land and it's not necessarily theirs. From your perspective, should they just vacate the land? Like, can we give them something? Like,
No, it's the weird, it's not as easy. You can't solve it that easy because some of them, they did take the land in 1948, but they have lived there for a generation and a half, and contributed and made things too. Like, they built things, and like,
yeah, they're the only cool place in
so
the Middle
the
East.
thing is, a one state solution would be, if we had grown-ups, which we don't, you just have everyone live together in one state with equal representation. They're never going to allow that because it has to be a Jewish state. They have to be the majority. So if that is the case, then you have to have a two-state solution. But Palestine has to have actual sovereignty. You cannot put a blockade on them and invade them every couple of years and destroy everything they build. Like, you got to knock that off. And if Israel doesn't remove the settlements out of the West Bank and stop incursions into Gaza, then there ought to be economic sanctions placed on Israel like you would do to anyone else. Like, you cannot just go around murdering your neighbors. No one gets to act like that. And no one does but them.
Okay. Um. Uh. Some fun
Can
stuff.
you imagine the reverse if this was happening to Jews? Like, if they were the ones, if you looked at an aerial photo
We
of
did
Tel
October
Aviv.
7th, and now we're seeing the
Oh no,
ramifications of
that
it.
is not the same. Like, if you look at Gaza, every house has just been bombed
Right. I mean,
to
I've seen it.
rubble.
It's a
Imagine if
wasteland.
Israel looked like that right now, and the world was just like, all there's hundreds of thousands of dead Jews, and every fucking home has been blown to bits, and they were raping Jews in jail, and like all the things were exactly opposite. Like, there's no way the world would put up with that. They'd put an end to that immediately. You can't do this. You can't just collectively bomb cities and say, oh well, IDF might have a tunnel there or a rocket or something. Can't do that.
Well, dude, anything's
I would
human.
oppose it if that was happening to anybody. I
Yeah,
don't
you would
care.
oppose it, right?
Yeah, you cannot bomb families in apartments. Like,
I think
you're not
Derek
bombing a
Chauvin should be
military
released.
base.
I
You know
think
what I
Derek
mean?
Chauvin should be released. He didn't kill that
Yeah,
dude.
I think so. I think what happened with him, with George Fentanyl, was that, or Floyd, I mean, he, the media turned that into a circus, and they made it about race, but there's no evidence that race had anything to do with that incident. Those cops are trained by Israelis, by the way, the whole foot on the knee on the back or back of the neck, whatever. He could have done things differently. Like, the guy was clearly having a panic attack and had swallowed all his drugs, so he's having an overdose. He's screaming, "I can't breathe," which means he can breathe because you can't scream unless you breathe. But he's already in handcuffs and seduced. They could have sat him up and talked him down. There were things they could have done, but he didn't intentionally murder him or anything. That guy died from overdosing, and he was a criminal. He pistol whipped people. He pulled a gun on a pregnant lady. He robbed
He was
stores.
using
He
counterfeit money, which I
counterfeit
think is a pretty
money.
vile crime,
It
by
is
the way.
vile. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Federal Reserve level bad.
Yep.
I don't see that why people heroicize George Fentanyl. He was about to get in a car high out of his mind. He could have killed people. He's supposed to be in jail. But I blame the whole system because George Floyd had been in jail like 4 times. Why is he out again to do the dumb stuff again? Like, he should have, some people should go to jail and stay in jail. Like,
I'm
if you're
tying that back
proven,
to the Israeli thing, Ryan, by you saying if Israel was carpet bombed like that, the world would flip out. Honestly, I don't know what the world will flip out about. They they have a statue of this guy, and he's a hero for the black community now when he's a vile human being. I don't anything's possible now.
he's a hero for the online black community. Like, a
Okay.
lot of blacks are embarrassed by it. They're like, ugh. Like, if you want an example of a guy who really didn't do anything, who got choked to death on camera, would be like Eric Gardner. He was in New York. I think he was selling loose cigarettes, whatever. and they put a naked chokehold on him and strangled him to death, and all the cops got acquitted. He was kind of fat and he couldn't get his arms behind his back. He was just kind of going like this, and they're just like, "Stop resisting!" And they just killed him on the street. That would have been a clear case. He wasn't a drug dealer. He wasn't in and out
Oh
of
yeah,
jail.
yeah, I've seen
Yeah,
that. I've seen
it was
that.
like
Yeah.
this, or Ayanna Jones, a 7-year-old black girl. They broke into the wrong house and shot her in the neck. Like there are incidents. I'm not saying they did it on purpose, but you
Or
shouldn't
that it
act
had to
like.
do with that he's black. It has nothing to do with he's black, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
there was no evidence that it was motivated by that or whatever. It might have been why they got acquitted because of, a bunch of Italian cops in an Italian part of New York. They let them through, but. There's a lot of hate, like covert hate towards black, where they're just like sick of the crime, and so they don't look at each case individually like, oh god, goddamn, another one, and they don't care when they get punished or killed or whatever, because they're so sick of so many times of the opposite happening where they get away with it. And I think this bullshit is fostered on purpose. Like when the RFK files dropped proving 13 shots and that Sirhan didn't act alone, thing Caesar is the shooter, what did we have? We had the boy that got stabbed by a black kid at a track meet, and the woman that yelled the N-word at a kid at the playground that was stealing from her or whatever. And it's funny that I cannot say what the N-word is on YouTube, but I'm allowed to talk about terrorism, rape, and torture, all that. But you can't say this word. That's, to me, the whole value pyramid is upside down. The kid didn't even care that he was called a nibba or whatever. It's a playground. He
Well,
was
first of
stealing.
all, a 5-year-old kid with
Whatever.
autism can't steal.
There's no proof he had
But
autism or that he was 5. This is what
okay,
the Karen said.
good
Some
point.
black Karen was
But
just saying,
also,
"Oh, he's like 5.
it's
Oh, how do you know this kid?" Like,
my favorite part is that the guy who's accusing her of calling the kid a nigga was this pedophile. Is that true? That it was a
um,
pedophile who filmed it at the?
I have not verified that. I saw that. There
Uh,
are pictures of him in the really young person in a
so you think this is
inappropriate way.
all a distraction from?
Yeah, because they do it over and over again. Whenever there is an important thing, you have a George Floyd, or you have Ferguson or something. Like, look at how bad they demonize Kyle Rittenhouse. He was definitely defending himself. It's on film. And he got acquitted in a very public trial. And there are still people that think he was an active shooter that went to an event and started shooting black people. None of the people he shot were black. He did
And
not go there to shoot
one
people.
of the guys the pedophile who just got out of prison the day before
Joseph Rosenbaum,
was
listed
yelling
as
racial
white,
slurs.
definitely Jewish.
Was yelling
Yeah, shoot
racial
me,
slurs.
Nibba. Shoot
Yeah,
me, Nibba.
yeah.
Well, he got it. And it's just and that guy had raped boys that he was babysitting, and he was actually dating another woman with a kid. So, like, he was probably going to do it again. And Rittenhouse put it into him, but he grabbed his gun. He got as close enough to grab Kyle's gun, and he got shot in the nuts. And he died doing what he loved, chasing a minor, because Kyle was 17.
No,
And
no
that was the
proof.
end of him,
No
and then
proof the
Skater
kid
Die hit
existed.
him with a
Wow.
skateboard. He got shot in the heart, and then you had the other guy get disarmed. Always joke and say he made him a true lefty because he took out his right arm, but he had a gun in that hand
Yeah,
where he got shot.
yeah.
I mean, Kyle could have shot him in the face, but he shot him in the arm. Kyle Rittenhouse, like, he's up on the stand and he's having a panic attack. Like, these people are trying to murder him, and they felt like they have the right to do it. They're like, oh, we have this righteous cause or whatever, so we just get to go around and set cars on fire and loot stores. You cannot just yell racism and then go out and steal and murder and burn things. Like, you cannot just like have some thin veneer and be like, oh, but it's for this thing that is socially agreeable, so I can do whatever I want. You lost all social capital you had about a legitimate cause, about police abuse and things like that. I agree, we should talk about that. But when you go around and just randomly set carlets on fire, or rob a Target, or do the things they're actually doing when they annexed a piece of Seattle for 6 months,
That was insane. That was
then
insane
you
what
are
they did in
nothing
Seattle.
but domestic terrorists. That's what you
Yeah.
really are. You're domestic terrorists with a do-gooder theme.
Are you
Did you
Jewish?
see the communists try to grow food? It was like some sad seeds on like AstroTurf. I'm like, no wonder commies starve. You
Oh,
don't know how to
no.
do anything.
Are you Jewish, Ryan?
Nope.
No. Yeah, are
No,
you born in the States?
I was. I
Yeah.
was born in Virginia. I'm from an island, but our island still doesn't have a hospital. I have a twin brother. So since my
Oh,
mom was having twins, she went up to Virginia to get it done. But born there, but really raised in the Outer Banks.
I
Irish and Native American, if people want to know the ethnic groups, a little bit of Dutch somewhere too.
come in. I think someone knocked. Did you hear it?
Was it like this?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
That was
yeah.
me.
Yeah. That I had. Do you have twins? Of your 3 boys, do you have any twins?
No,
No, okay.
I
I have some twins. Oh, you're gonna have more kids.
I don't know. Like, they just
You
happen.
Yeah, you can never have enough. By the
I
way,
said I said no after the second one, and I had a third one. So now I just say, well, maybe.
yeah, that
So
happens.
it's not planning.
Ryan's Twitter, by the way, is at RY Liberty, Rye Liberty, and the website that you should go to for just the constant updates is ANC. Wait, tell me what it is again. ANC Report.
ANCreport.com is good. Super easy though. It's just my name, RyanDawson.org. That's my Substack, and it's pretty far ranging. We get into current events, Ukraine, recently India and Pakistan, what's going on in the Middle East, is Sudan, but also the American Civil War, like historical things, esoteric thought. It's all over the place. And of course, the pedo rings, and I keep track of all that. Epstein and conspiracies, September 11th. So if any of that interests you, it's all on there. And I interview professionals, Larry Johnson, Scott Ritter, these people who have been in intelligence, people who have worked for the government. We come on and have grown up discussions about current events. But some of it is just walk and talks on Telegram, just loose and talking to whoever, answering questions. So, variety, RyanDawson.org on Substack. It's free, by the way. The movies, I make movies. They're all free except for 2 of them. So you can go and check those out. The new Mech is the one that you showed on screen a little bit ago. That's the most recent one. It's good. It's on the motives of why they killed JFK and how Israel stole highly enriched uranium from the United States to secretly build nuclear weapons.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Mike Walls,
Spy. Yeah,
he is a spy?
he was. He got thrown out.
And so Trump figured that out?
Somebody figured that out, and Trump got word of it, and he is pissed.
Okay, and
That's
so
the second time. They spied on him with stingrays when he was president the first time. This one was worse, though. They were going to preemptively strike Iran and drag the U.S. into war with Iran. That was the plan. Doesn't look like that's going to happen now. And it's almost hard to believe because every president is balls deep on Israel, especially Trump. But Trump's also an egomaniac, and he did not like this at all, that they were spying on them. Walsh is the one that leaked the Signal app conversations in the Atlantic with Pete Hegseth and the rest of them. Well, what are you doing, man? And when Steve Witkoff, who's Jewish, by the way, went there and made a reasonable deal, basically like the JCPOA, enrichment down to 3.5%. You need 90 to make a bomb, by the way. The Israelis, that wasn't enough. Like, no, they have to get rid of their program completely, knowing that that bar is too high. They're not going to do that. They've spent billions of dollars on nuclear energy for electricity. They're not just going to blow up their facilities. But they just keep increasing the demands to levels that are unacceptable. And they go, oh, they're secretly building a nuclear bomb. Oh. And it's so funny because they're always guilty of their own accusations. Israel has secret nuclear bombs. They did what they're accusing everyone else of doing. They have hundreds of them. Mordecai Vanunu, Christian convert, took photographs of the warheads. He worked there. They caught him in Britain because of Robert Maxwell, who was the father of convicted pedophile Glenn Maxwell. They caught Vanunu in a honey trap and put him in solitary confinement in Israel. And what did he do? He had the crime of telling the truth. Here's a bunch of nuclear weapons in Nimona that they all knew about anyway, but they didn't know how many. and now they know it was in the hundreds back then. They have hundreds of nuclear bombs, and have you ever heard of the Samson option? When these people are a danger to the planet.
So what did you say? Have I ever heard of the what option?
The
Samson?
Samson option is referring to Samson, the biblical Samson, but they're like, if they will nuke Europe if it comes, like, you're not going to intervene in their greater Israel project, or they'll take you down with them. And they are serious and crazy enough to do something like that. I think that's mute now because Europe has nukes too, and they would nuke them back. But who wants that? Who wants an exchange of nuclear weapons? Like, how crazy do you have to be? Oh, I didn't know there's a wiki on it. Huh. Yep.
So, I want a little bit more on walls. So walls, why are they moving
Walls
him
is
to
the
the
mole.
UN? They're trying to keep it low profile for now before they like, why doesn't, and who found this out? Is Kash Patel spying on all the guys in the cabinet? And he's like, hey, Trump, this motherfucker's works for Netanyahu. Is it like that?
I think Cash Patel is the face, but it's the smart people under him that actually do the work.
Right.
Patel is not that guy. Sorry,
Okay. But do
but
you like him? Do you like him? Good leader? No? Yeah? No?
way better than Christopher Wray. I'll tell you that.
Okay. Right. Right.
I would like to see
He's got a
like
heart
Danny
on. He's
Davis.
vindictive. We need that, right? Like he wants to fuck the
It's
system because the system fucked
He's an
him, right?
improvement in every way over
Okay.
Christopher Wray. Christopher Wray profiteered off of Sibnef with the Biden crime syndicate,
I
with
don't know what
Rosemont
Sibnef is, but
Syndicate. I have a film called The Biden Crime Family. You want to learn about the Bidens? Dude, it's mafia. That's all they are. But anyway,
are you
dude's
affiliated with
such a
these?
pedo. He's out there sniffing kids' hair on camera. He can't control himself.
Are you affiliated with these people at all?
What's that say?
It's the Marco Polo.
Oh, no, I'm not.
Have you seen this book?
Mm-mm.
It's his oh god, that is disgusting.
You get coffee on it or something?
No, it's I had someone gave me a mouse pad and the mouse pad exploded and it's
Sure. No.
it's just a coagulated cum. This is his
Too
entire
much
phone.
creatine. No.
This is his phone and laptop in a book form.
Oh, okay, yeah. So
This is pretty funny to have this. I mean, it's just unfortunately they covered all the blowjob parts, but it's pretty funny.
I had the Chinese websites were leaking that all over the place. But the thing is, if you shared anything from that to Twitter,
Yeah.
you got suspended. You couldn't put it on Facebook. Even though
Yeah,
the
it was
whole
pulled
thing
off of
was online.
Amazon I bought it on Amazon but for a long time you couldn't
I'm
find it on
surprised.
Amazon. It
Yeah,
just
I'm
came back
surprised it's still
recently.
there.
Yeah,
Oh,
it
okay,
just came
that's why.
back
Because he's
recently.
no
Yeah.
longer president and he got a pardon anyway, so it didn't matter. Yeah, Hunter was, looking for Parmesan cheese. They focused on all his sexual escapades, but I think their greater crimes were the pay for play, the fact that they sold U.S. trade secrets to militarization for nuclear weapons to the Chinese. That's a far more egregious crime than him sleeping with prostitutes.
Is that what they were doing? They were selling nuclear
Oh, it's so
information?
much worse than that. I implore everybody, it's free. ANCreport.com, click on films, click on Biden Crime Syndicate. It's I think it's called Corn Pop's Revenge. It's got a picture of Biden
Oh,
like looking off
I
in the
tried to
distance.
watch that and then it ended up got through like 30 minutes of it and it started over or something. I was on the wrong channel. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, people copy my stuff. That's why I'm like, go to AC Report, click film, click it, because that's definitely mine. Like,
Okay.
should be on
And
Rumble, I think.
ANC report.
Films, and then here, I'll do it.
I got it. I'm on it. ANC report. Let me do it for you. You chill. So you go up here to films, ANC films,
Yeah, it's called the Biden Crime Syndicate. Corn
Corn
Pop's
Pops
Revenge.
Revenge.
Yeah. Yeah, watch that later. Oh, see in the bottom where it says ANC Films, that little banner? That one will get you a page with everything. It's better than the menu. Yeah.
So why do these people do that? Aren't they afraid they're going to fuck up the whole world? Why would you sell secrets to the Chinese for $10 million? Aren't you afraid you're going to get people killed?
they don't have any sense of national interest. Everything is personal commercial interest for these people. Like, they profit. To hell with everyone
I
else.
know, but you could die.
Yeah. Well, they're not worried about China nuking the US. They're thinking like this is their insurance policy. They have beef with India and da da da. They don't care. I'm like, yeah, millions could die. As long as it's not them, it doesn't matter. It's the US is one of the few places where the leaders actually have children. A lot of European statesmen don't have kids.
Yeah, why
They
is
have
that?
no investment in the future at all.
Oh, shit. Is Macron's wife a man? Is that do you
No.
subscribe? No, that's
She
just
looks
Candace.
like it though.
Right, she does, yeah. Do you ever see Candace Owens? What
It's
about,
kinda like the Big Mike thing, like, Obama married a man, like, "Nah, he married a manly looking woman, she had children," like,
what about
yeah.
the no pictures of her, being pregnant on the internet? You ever look around
Well,
for pictures
I've
of her?
never tried to find them,
Okay.
but, you know,
Oh, what
it's, Macron is homosexual. If you've seen him in the Caribbean, I had this thing, like, ladies, find a man that smiles at you the way Macron smiles at 15-year-old black boys from the Caribbean, because he is just, like, having the time of his life.
okay.
And that's been I mean, he is queer as a football bat. Like, that rumor's been around longer than Lindsey Graham's definitely in the closet.
And his wife's like, "Oh, Lindsey Graham seems gay too, he got a little
Oh,
Liberace in him."
Lindsey Graham is so deep in the closet he can see Narnia in his rearview mirror.
And Macron's wife is, like, 30 years older than him or something? 39
Yeah,
years or something?
which doesn't matter. I mean, he's gayer than a box of AIDS. Like,
What about Trudeau?
queer as
Trudeau
a
is Trudeau
dick
is Fidel
flavored
Castro
lollipop. What?
is Fidel Castro Trudeau's dad?
I love that rumor. I don't think so, but damn, they look alike.
And
They
you
did know
see
each other. I mean, it's a possibility. But,
and his
nah,
parents were
Trudeau was
supposedly
far more draconian than Fidel. No.
and his parents were swingers, and there's
It
photos of her, like, all cozied up with
that is, yeah, it is. I would get a DNA test. I mean, if you look at Fidel, when I first saw that, I was like, this AI. I had to go back and find pictures that are older than AI, because this is the world we live in. It makes it really hard for research now because everything's fakeable. And I looked at Fidel. I'm like, oh, this is from 2000. Right? Like this, and this is okay. This is Trudeau. I mean, and then I look at Fidel and I go, if you just put this beard on this face,
yeah.
man. But there's coincidences like that. If you look at Lyndon Johnson, and then you look at Israel's only female prime minister, Golda Meir. If you put a pearl necklace on Lyndon Johnson, he looks just like Golda Meir.
Hey, dude, I've had a guy on the show. I'll probably have him on again. He's a flat earther guy, but he just draws compare. He thinks that Trump is Elvis, and
Oh, that's awesome.
he has this huge Instagram account. If you spend too much time on it, you'll start
He's like
believing his
got the lip. Yeah.
dude. It's crazy. He just sees.
I'll tell you another one that's fascinating. Victoria Nuland. If you get a picture of Victoria Nuland, and then you get the Carpathian from Ghostbusters 2, like the evil painting of the demon wizard guy, same like mullet and everything. They are identical.
Um, uh, this is a little off subject, but another thing that's like completely like when you say like impossible things that could happen, like what would happen if Israel was turned to rubble? How would the world react?
Dude, Trudeau Castro is not impossible. That's like,
Right.
you know,
Rachel Levine, how
how did he exist? Like,
what about the other guy who was in charge of our nuclear throwing away our nuclear energy? Simon, the bald gay guy who was stealing
oh, that was stealing luggage.
yeah, I mean like dude,
Was it Boddock or something? I forgot his name too.
this is
But
a we were starting to enter like a weird clown
he
world.
looks like a Nosferatu with lipstick, and he got caught stealing ladies' clothing out of
Airports.
airport suitcases more than once.
He was caught wearing the clothes that some custom Indian designer had made a one-off, and he was caught wearing her shit like years later.
Yeah,
That
it's
so
that's
we're
why
in
I
a
say peak when the age of we call it the paper straw age.
yeah.
Peak clown world was about February 2021. That was like maximum clown. where you have pregnant men or men with periods, and they are
On our
putting
iPhone, we have an
biological
emoji.
males in
We have a
female
pregnant man.
prisons where
Yes.
they raped women.
Yes.
Yeah, that and people are like, well, Trump did this, Trump did that. I'm like, I don't care anything to get rid of what we had, where people were wearing double masks and Fauci was like heroicized. You couldn't get lower than that.
There was the
And
pregnant
the
man
very
emoji.
bottom, would you agree the very bottom has to be pregnant men? Like, that's got to be the dumbest assault on reality I've ever seen. The most egregious definitely was giving hormones to kids to force them to change their sex. That's horrible.
We're
But
still there. We're still there, aren't we? We're like still in a little bit of
got out like
idiocracy.
Tennessee outlawed it, and a couple southern states got rid of it. But
How
they're
about you?
always the first to lead the charge, by the way. And they're demonized in Hollywood as a bunch of backward hillbillies, but they're the only ones to be like, nope, you're a boy. You're not doing that. Like, simple.
You probably heard this before. Dawson sims for Putin and his vile crimes against humanity. We haven't even talked about Putin.
Oh, I love that.
Oh,
Putin is a
Sam Brighton.
gangster.
By the way, Sam Brighton. Sam Brighton was like,
Oh
"What?"
yeah, that's
You're
the
just
thief.
yeah.
It just, I said B. I said Boddock or something. I said it started. I don't like. I purposely. You can tell I'm pretty good sponge for information. That stuff was so disgusting that I'm trying to purge it out of my brain. Like, I
Fair,
don't
fair.
want to remember the COVID era or whatever, like the
Yeah.
paper straw people. It's so. Ugh. And yeah, another horrible thing that happened during that whole period was the start of the Ukraine war in Russia. Which, look, it is not a to shield for Putin to just explain the fact that Ukraine had been in a civil war since 2014, very hot from 14 to 15. That's when Crimea seceded legally, and I support secession. And they attacked the Donbass. They had the Minsk Accord and the Minsk II Accords, which Zelensky did break by firing artillery at an elementary school. They
In
thought that
Russia, in Russia.
no, against no, all in Ukraine. Like, West Ukraine attacked East Ukraine. East Ukraine, the Donbass region, had attempted to secede just like Crimea and join the Russian Federation, and Putin told them no. It was only after they were attacked again in 2022, and he does not want NATO on his doorstep, that 7 days into that, Russia finally intervened. And then they did accept a referendum vote and secession from Luhansk, Donetsk, and Zaporozhye area. But Putin had rejected them joining the Russian Federation. So what they did is then they declared independence. We're the independent state of Donbass or whatever.
Where is
They,
that? Where's Donbass? Is
it's
it
the eastern portion of Ukraine. It's
just a little edge
the
here?
oblast of Luhansk and Donetsk. So
Okay.
yeah, your mouse is kind of where Kharkiv is,
Okay.
that area. And there's Donetsk. You see it?
No, I can't.
Donetsk state.
Oh,
There's a
yeah, yeah,
Donetsk
yeah.
city.
Okay, yeah.
So it's kind of like there's a New York, right? There's New York City inside New York State. There's
Okay,
Donetsk inside the county of Donetsk, but they
okay.
don't call them counties; they call them oblast, whatever. So Luhansk and Donetsk tried to secede because that area of Ukraine is like all Russian speakers anyway. Ukraine used to be part of the Soviet Union. That area of Ukraine was part of Russia all the way until 1952, and Crimea all the way until 1954. They were already Russian. So some of the people who were born there were born in Russia, speak Russian. They're part of Ukraine. Soviet Union falls in 89. Da 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 da. Da. They were doing things against their church. They outlawed their language. They were antagonizing them. The worst thing they did was there was a coup d'etat where the duly elected president was outed and they replaced him. And when there were protests against it, they walled them up in Odessa and burned the building and killed the people in it. Then they started fighting this hot war against eastern Ukraine. All this happens before Russia's invasion. They'll say one excuse after another. The purpose of handcuffing Russia to Ukraine was because Russia was supporting Bashar al-Assad in Syria and stifling Israel's regional ambition. By having a de facto NATO war against Russia, Russia cannot support Syria, Iran, or anyone else. It's got its hands full, which allowed HTS from Turkey to come in, topple Syria, and divide it now where Rojava is Kurdish, Turkey runs Damascus, and Israel took southern Syria. That was the result of that. And that was the point of that. It does not make Putin good or bad to invade Ukraine, but he's invading Ukraine on behalf of the Donbass, he'll say. That might be a reason. But the greater reason is for Russia. It's in Russia's interest not to have NATO-trained troops and NATO weapons on their doorstep. He would never allow it, and the U.S. wouldn't either. If Russia put missiles in Cuba, for example, this isn't something we have to guess at because this actually happened, and we had the Cuban Missile Crisis. If Russia put a base or China put a base in northern Mexico, Texas wouldn't like that very much. None of the, but when we do it, oh, they're supposed to just sit there and take it. What did you expect to happen? They thought the economic warfare, kicking Russia off of SWIFT and all that, was going to have a more devastating impact than it did. So did the Russians. Everybody thought this. But they made precautionary measures, and it didn't work. Had that worked, the idea was to force Russia to attack a porcupine. That if they would have to come in because they cannot afford a protracted war as their economy is bleeding to death. And if they hit entrenched Ukrainian troops like that, they'd lose. But the economic warfare failed. So instead, Russia can support a protracted war. And they call it the meat grinder, this methodical wall just moving west, using its superior range and artillery. And it's a very slow way to win, but it's casualty adverse. You don't lose a lot of guys like you would have to if you have to charge entrenched positions that are fortified and all that. So they are slowly gobbling up Ukraine. They've offered them 3 different peace deals, which Zelensky has rejected. And in so, he's lost more and more territory. Not only is he losing the Donbass, he's going to lose a piece of Kherson and Zaporozhye too. He could have resolved that back in March of 2022 and decided not to, but Zelensky, most of that money goes up his nose. He was placed there
that's
by
true. The cocaine
an
shit's true.
oligarch. Yeah, Ihor Kolomoisky is the one that propped him up and put him there. This guy's working for a cabal that was using the Ukraine-Russia conflict to benefit Israel's Middle East ambitions to get into Syria. They knew you have to take out Russia because they almost had Syria. And Russia came in and started bombing Al-Qaeda. And that was the end of that. And they lost. Or if Russia out of the way, they were able to take Syria in 12 days.
What happened to the what's his name, Bashar, or the head of Syria?
Well, the Qataris bribed his officer class to stand down, so they were able to march right into Aleppo. They isolated this Iranian commander. He was the only one willing to fight. Yeah, and Trump killed Soleimani, and Soleimani was fighting ISIS. It's like, what are you doing? But he got those orders from Sheldon Adelson, who was still alive at the time. They had a working group. Jim Loeb wrote about this. And John Bolton and all the usual suspects convinced Trump that to do it. He said, if they kill an American, I'll do it. So they killed some Iraqi translator who'd been American all of 6 days with mortar fire. And somehow this is blamed on Soleimani. And they hit him with an airstrike at 1:30 in the morning and murdered him, which is like Iran's Robert E. Lee. It was really stupid. It just galvanized the whole country against the United States. They fired back, took out a few of our helicopters that were on the ground. And, that could have been so much worse. But there was great restraint there. Trump was so stupid to listen to Bolton. He does fire John Bolton eventually and realizes this guy's an absolute snake and an Israeli agent. He gets rid of Bolton.
Seriously? He was an Israeli agent too?
Absolutely. John Bolton, Nikki Haley, they all work for Israel. And then he figures out Mike Waltz. But like someone like
Nikki
me could have told
too?
him day one when he picked his cabinet, like, fuck Pam Bondi, bring in Matt Gates.
What do they have on Nikki?
Stuff?
Wait, Ryan.
Gates
what do they have? What do they have on what do they have on Nikki Haley?
Nikki, she takes Bukake in the Knesset. Every word out of her mouth is Israel, Israel, Israel. It's like,
I know, but you have to blackmail people. Oh, they blackmail her donors, not her.
You have to blackmail unwilling people. There are people who are ideologically in line with Zionism because of their religious faith. That's what they think.
Nikki Haley's a Jew?
I don't think she's Jewish. She's definitely a Zionist, though.
I know. Why am I still a Zionist? You still haven't. I think that they should have their own country.
You can have your own country, but you can't murder your neighbors. Like that's what I'm saying. Like it's already there. So you can't just pack Israel up and make it go somewhere else. Like they're already there. They annex land. It'd be like trying to give all the land back to Native Americans. That's not a realistic thing. Okay. But you can stop killing them, which we did. And you could have a Palestinian state with real sovereignty and real rights if you're not going to have one state. Stop annexing the West Bank, do a hostage swap, and live at peace with your neighbors.
So you think all the stuff that's like,
Yitzhak Rabin was almost there, and they shot him.
you think all the stuff where like Muslims hate gays, Muslims behead people, they were raping the women on October 7th.
Nobody got raped on October 7th. So what
A,
they do,
the UNRWA, 87%, the UNRWA teaches all Palestinian kids hate Jews and want to kill the Jews.
you don't
If
have
the
to
Jews
teach
put down their
Palestinians to hate Jews. They have every reason to hate Israel. Like
okay,
they
so
probably
let me
have someone in their family that was murdered by Israelis. They don't need to learn it in school.
so let me put that, Ryan. Let me put this at you. Then there's this easy line that people say too. It goes like this: if the Israelis put down their guns, the Hamas and the Hezbollahs will kill them. But if the Hezbollahs and the Hamas put down their guns, we have peace. Bullshit.
No, bullshit. When they put
Okay.
down their guns, they got slaughtered. Israel doesn't have to put its guns down, but Israel has to stop taking F-15s and blowing up apartments. Israel has to stop going in with bulldozers and smashing someone's house and burning their farm and kicking families off their private property to give it away to the self-proclaimed chosen race of God. You can't act like that and expect people to not hate you. They don't hate you because you're Jewish. They hate you because of your behavior. It's like you were saying earlier about a lot of these like black that hate white. We're like, oh, he did this. I'm like, well, what were you doing that has brought that on? Like, was it your behavior? They never look at them like, why are we so hated? It's anti-Semitism. Like, it's not anti-Semitic. You just shot his son. Of course they hate you. Of course they. You can't just take fucking bulldozers and smash someone's house down and be like, we're here now. What reaction are you expecting? What positive outcome could that possibly create? They can't be that stupid.
What
It's
about
disingenuous. Like,
2 million Arabs that are living inside of Israel? Are they a danger to the citizens there?
I don't think so. That's why they're
Hmm,
allowed to be there. They
yeah.
use virtual slave labor. Actually, a lot of them are being replaced by workers from Thailand now. But like, they'll allow either Arabs who live there or Arabs who come in, work, and go back, and they have to go through all these checkpoints and rigmarole just to get to work because the West Bank has roads for Jews and roads for non-Jews. They have color-coded license plates. So if you're a Jew, and I don't remember if it's yellow or whatever the tag is, then you can go on any road. But if you're not, you don't get to drive on that. You're the wrong race. You're the
Mm,
wrong racial ethnic category.
mm.
If you're going to have an apartheid state that has separate laws for different types of people, separate roads for different types of people, segregated high schools, all that, then it's they don't really live there. They don't live there with equal rights. Arabs are allowed to work in Israel, but at what type of jobs usually? Uh, it's like, well, there's an Arab in the Knesset. It's like, okay, there was a black senator in the 1870s that didn't resolve all the racial tension in the United States because they allowed one of them to do this thing. Like it is systematic racism when you have separate laws for separate people, which they do. There's a DNA test to migrate to Israel. You got your birthrights for Jews. Like there are special privileges for being Jewish to
When I
enter
land
Israel.
when I landed in Beirut one time, I've been there a handful of times, but I got off the airplane, and as I was walking towards customs, I saw a sign on the wall, and it said, "If your passport is stamped that you've been to Israel, you will not be
Yeah,
leaving the airport."
yeah.
I'm assuming
They,
that means they send you back where you came from, not they're gonna kill you. But that was
no,
fucking
they'll
Beirut,
might hold
dude.
you in detention for an hour or two. The
Yeah.
Israelis do this. Will do the similar thing. Uh, they'll. I mean, they have the mikvah anyway, where they strip people naked and their weird rituals and stuff. But they'll hold people, Americans and stuff, like American Christians. I know that go to Israel and they give them, you know, the full degree burn, like interrogating them for what? They're not Jewish. So they're like, what are you doing? What are you doing in Israel? Why are you here? They just
I
wanted
was
to see
I
the
was
country.
also I was also making Ryan, I was making this movie in Egypt, in the Sahara, and, it was these people were it was a documentary, it's called Desert Runners, and there were these runners running across the Sahara Desert, and we were like,
They're running across the Sahara Desert.
yeah, it's crazy, they ran across
This
Antarctica, the
the Goggins
Sahara.
stuff or something.
Well, it's just crazy, crazy shit. But anyway, so there was a guy. So 3 days into the race, there's a guy who's Israeli. I didn't know at the time, and they come and get him. You know, the fucking 20 Toyota Hiluxes fucking show up, and they're like, "Hey, where's the Israeli guy?" I'm assuming they just sent him back to Israel, but they came and got him out. And my point is like these things that you're bringing up, they're also happening in these other countries too.
Yeah, I know.
Okay,
I
okay.
don't like that either. Like it's like, but the scale, I'm not worried about an Israeli getting deported so much as I am a Palestinian child having their head blown off. Like it just, my time is focused more on the humanitarian effort of people who are being collectively punished and starved to death. They won't even allow food in there. They blew up the food trucks. In fact, when they allowed food trucks in, and when everybody went to get food, they started gunning down the people that went to get the food.
What about the Hamas guy stealing the food from the people who really need it? More bullshit?
Hamas needs it. People really need it. Hamas distributes food to the people. They've had food for their hostages. None of these Israelis have been let go look like sunken in faces and starving to death. You know,
What about, like, this charter that some of these countries have, like Iran has, where it's like death to the state of
or
Israel?
Yemen, you mean?
Yemen, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a normal reaction to a pariah state that preemptively attacked all of its neighbors, supports racial colonization, and is annexing land like that. They should be hated. The same way we hated Nazis. Like everyone, nobody wants the Nazis either. Like everyone ganged up on them. Yeah, well, it wasn't because they were German though. It's because of what they were doing.
Right,
If you're gonna act like a Nazi, get treated like a Nazi. If you're
right.
gonna act like a Zionist Israeli, people are gonna fucking hate you. Anybody with a shred of morality is gonna look at what you're doing and be like, "You're fucked." Like
Okay.
you can't do that. You can't just put people in concentration camps. And both groups did that.
Right. Let me propose this to you about what's happened in the United States. So, uh, we have a society that wants maximum tolerance, right?
Ugh.
That and what's happened is while we were trying to be kumbaya, peace, love, and maximum tolerance, we forgot that in a society with maximum tolerance, we're gonna allow the most intolerant people in the world to live
Is
with
it
us.
maximum tolerance? Is it maximum tolerance to whites or to Christians? It doesn't seem like it.
Uh,
Like if you're tolerant for one thing but not another, that's still intolerance.
I agree. I agree. I'm not sure where you're going with that, but my point is that there has to become a point where you have just because we live in the world with matter, there has to be some things that we're intolerant of. Like I don't want to
Yeah,
tolerate pedophiles,
right.
right? And
It sounds
um,
anti-Semitic.
now that was Jew slander. No, it is. You don't think that just based on that there's a that's a
You should
justification,
be intolerant of evil things.
right? And so
I'm absolutely intolerant to the alphabet people. Like, no, you don't get to pretend to be a gender. Like, you don't get to change sexes through the power of wishing.
but then how are you tolerant towards Yemen or Iran when they have you can't be tolerant towards anyone who wants to get rid of destroy your homeland. And what I'm saying is I respect what you're saying in the beginning. I get it. You don't wait till everyone's
Well,
dead and you
Iran's
call it
not
a,
trying to destroy. If Iran wanted to destroy Israel, they would just fire a bunch of ballistic missiles at them and be done. They have no means of blocking those.
but isn't there
Iran is trying to
isn't
work in the world community. Yemen, you have to understand, Yemen has been attacked for the last 30 years cyclically, first by Saudi proxies with the UAE, and then by the British and the Americans. So that he's starting
whatever
to
the
swing in the
reason
middle to be like, oh, look, they hate us. Like, well,
whatever the
did you
reason
bomb
is
Aden? Yes. Did you have a coup? Yes. Did
whatever
you
the reason
pay?
is, they've reached their tolerance though, Ryan. They've reached maximum tolerance, and now they're intolerant of whatever the state of Israel is doing to them. I almost did it.
Well,
They're
they have Jews that live in Yemen too.
so
Like
they're
you can,
so
there's
now
Jews
they're
that live in
intolerant
Iran. Like
for
it's not a
whatever
Jew
reason.
thing. It's
for
an
whatever
Israeli.
reason, they're intolerant of Israel now. Okay,
Yeah,
and what you're saying is because Israel has been just complete assholes to them and killing them.
they've been doing that to everybody.
And so,
Israel, you might as well. I hate you being Godwin's law or whatever, but it's like the Nazis. Like you, okay, that can't exist next to you. You just can't. We're intolerant in North Korea. We sanction the fuck out of them, all that. We're like, well, they have a pariah state. They use slave labor and prison labor. They do terrible things. So, the reaction to how they behave is appropriate. It's not because they're Korean. People get along with South Korea just fine. And the way Israel behaves, they ought to be globally sanctioned until they change their manner. But because there aren't any consequences, they're not going to stop. If Iran had put Jews in a concentration camp, guns pointed at them, and started bombing their houses and stuff, then it would be like Israel. But they're not doing that. Jews in Iran live wherever they want. They don't have a subsect in Iran living in a strip with a wall wrapped around it that they periodically go and hit with their air force. And I don't mean just like
so the
militants.
outcome,
They just bomb whoever they want.
so the outcome you want is
Iran's not blowing up hospitals and shooting or blowing up pagers on nurses. Like they're not acting like Israel. Nobody is.
so you want a righteous outcome.
I think it's very difficult when you did have secular leaders like Gaddafi, for example. The West will get rid of them. Assad was secular. Saddam secular-ish with his Ba'athist party. They want to put they want Giuliani in Syria. They love to have another nutcase in Iran. They like having Hamas. They supported Hamas over the PLO because fostering sectarian religious dogmatism has a predictable conflict conclusion. You know that if you put Zionists here, Wahhabis here, and you foster sectarian infighting, they're going to fight each other. And who profits off of that? The entire military-industrial complex benefits from purposely creating sectarian in-groups that kill each other. And it's the best when it's over religion because that's something you can never resolve because it's the equivalent of arguing who'd win between comic book characters because Yahweh, Allah, whatever, they're not actually real. So you can never say, well, my religion's the right one. Like, no, they're all made up. So you're going to fight indefinitely because you can't reason somebody out of something they weren't reasoned into. And so they're going to fight forever over their dogmatic bullshit. And this is the point, divide and conquer. The Middle East, were it to get its shit together, is sitting on oil, gas, they should be the richest place in the world. They could be if they didn't have perpetual war and conflict. So it is in Britain and the United States' interest to keep them killing each other. That's the sicko way that they look at it.
You think that they really do look at it that way? You think like that's a conscious thought?
Sykes-Picot is the one that divided it into little. What is Kuwait? They just drew a little triangle around oil. There's a country. They divided it up based on resources, not based on tribal affiliation, not based on ideology, religion, or any of that. They're just like, oh, it'd be useful for the British Empire, and the French. It's all about resources. That's what I wanted. And I think we're about to take a turn where Qatar and Iran have figured out, well, why don't we just bribe the way the Israelis do? We'll get a lobby and we'll outspend them, and then we'll get favoritism. And yeah, that's exactly what you have to do.
Unknowable. Yes, it's wild. He says things I agree with, but I don't like him also.
I don't care.
So it's confusing to a degree.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like handsome people.
He's giving historical perspective of why the modern Middle East situation is the way it is.
Sykes-Picot has a lot to do with it.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Sykes-Picot, after the World War.
No, I don't know. But
well, a lot of these countries, when the Ottoman Empire fell, were sort of arbitrarily designed the way they are. And a big problem with Saudi Arabia and Yemen is Yemen's got the coastal territory Saudi Arabia has to trade either through the Strait of Hormuz or the Red Sea, which means it's called the Maritime Silk Road, and it has to pass through a choking point. So if they go the Red Sea north, it's the Suez Canal or the Eshkelon pipeline in Israel. If they go the Red Sea south, they have to go through Aden, Somalia. If they go through the Strait of Hormuz, they're going through Iran. So you have to keep either defeat or be on good terms with all those countries, or they can cut off your maritime Silk Road. Now, the majority of Saudi Arabia, you look at Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, all these little fiefdoms are on the northern side, right on the coast of Saudi Arabia. The reason that happened was prior to the discovery of oil, you see how there's no roads going east? They all go north, like they all go toward the seas, right? They're all going diagonal. That's why, from Jeddah on. Riyadh's the capital, but the reason you have Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, they're all hugging that coastline. That's the valuable trade. That was the valuable trade prior to oil being discovered, because the big thing prior to that was the pearl trade, and the pearls are there because that's where the oysters and all live. So they built up their port cities on that side of the country. And with the fall, they cut them all up. Because imagine if Qatar and Bahrain and the UAE and Kuwait was one country, how wealthy that it would be, right?
Yeah.
They split it all up, and Saudi Arabia's got a little piece. But the piece they have is kind of crap. It hugs down near Bahrain because it's desert and whatever. But that's where they had the pearl trade. So rather than rebuilding infrastructure on the Red Sea, they just built upon what already existed and did oil trade there. They would eventually go southwest and build on the Red Sea. That's why you see all these Somali pirates in Yemen. They're just sitting there at the choking point, knowing you have to pass through this little isthmus where we can get you. You have to go around Dubai, like that little area in Iran, in order to get open sea trade to beat China, India, whoever you want. On the other side, you see Djibouti in Yemen, that little squeeze. You got to go through it. Unless you go the other way, then you either go through the Suez, which not all ships are allowed to do because of U.S. pressure, or if it's oil, you can send it through the Israeli pipeline. Israel goes from Haifa to Eilat. It's got a pipeline, ironically co-financed by Iran.
Oh, wow.
Prior to 79. Yeah.
Wow.
That's in Jimmy Carter's book, by the way. So, peace, not apartheid. That pipeline.
Did you like Jimmy Carter? Did you like Jimmy Carter?
I think, some and some not. I don't like the Department of Education.
But do you think he was controlled by the Jews? Or sorry, by Israel?
I think he was a pretty hardcore Christian and sort of fell into that until he visited, and then he changed his mind.
But do you think they had anything on him, blackmail on him?
No, he was just a country bumpkin Georgia dude. He was very educated, but on the matters of religion and all, he really didn't understand the Middle East until after it was too late.
What about this guy?
Carter was more focused on, the Cold War and the Soviet Union and all that. Middle East was way down his list.
And he was concerned about having sexual desires with women besides his wife. He admitted to that.
Well, he
Do you remember that?
I have not heard that one, but he
admitted that. He admitted that.
He's years old.
he was like guilt, like when he was president. That was like one of the things he said. He said, "Yes, I've had lustful thoughts of other women." Hey, let me.
My grandmother met him. I think he asked her on a date, and she said no. But she liked him though, like as president, like for a Democrat. You have to have for a Democrat.
What about Signal? Is Signal compromised? Are there any
encrypted app?
Are there any ways I can communicate? Can I send you a dick pic without anyone else seeing it?
No. Look.
Yeah.
Anything on a phone. I don't care if it's Signal or any of them. I'm not going to name them even. Anybody can just take a second phone and record everything on the screen.
But what I'm saying is there someone like no one talks about this anymore, but I'm sure you remember this. The NSA was taking pictures of everyone in the United States with their fucking computer cameras in the and storing them in the UK, and then those guys who worked there were passing around their favorite photos, and then it got out.
Snowden got all over that. The NSA shares
And
everything with the Israelis. The NSA was caught routinely with child porn on its own servers. All of it. Check this out. I have one. I'll send you a video later. It's called A Trip Down Rapey Lane, where I go through all of it. The NSA, the BIA, the CIA, like all your little 3-letter networks, all have kiddie porn. And you're like, how could this happen without the bottleneck phenomenon? What happens is you get the leadership, and then that person appoints its underlings. None of these people are voted for, and they grab other pedophiles. Like it's sick. The NSA has the ability to spy on people. So what do you think the first thing a lot of those guys did? They look at naked women, and then it escalates, and it gets down to, oh, I saw your daughter naked, whatever. They get. So I don't know what some psychologists can explain it, but why are you interested in kids? Kids are kids,
Well,
like
well,
why is that appealing to you?
away from the kid shit for just a second. Like I was hearing about Paragon. I heard Ian Carroll's thing about Paragon and Ed Hood Barak, and how basically if anyone can get close to your phone, they can basically take everything off your phone.
Yeah.
With some sort of Pegasus software that they can put on it.
NSO, yeah.
Without you even clicking anything. So is there any way to securely communicate?
Smoke signals.
That's it? Okay. Is it really like, I mean, you should just assume everyone sees everything, right?
You can meet in person, and you got to not have a phone on you. But courier is how a lot of people, like terrorist networks and drug cartels, they use courier, and they talk face to face. Anything electronic can be eavesdropped on. Everything.
Pam Bondi, is she compromised?
She's just dumb.
Okay, because you see O'Keefe's getting pretty fired up the last few days. You see James O'Keefe's getting ready to.
It's all stuff I've already uncovered.
Okay.
He's just talking about stuff I put out years ago. Here's an exciting thing though about that, and this was in the papers yesterday in the United Kingdom. Virginia Giuffre, rest in peace. The tape with her and Andrew is allegedly going to be released in the United States.
Like him dropping, like him skull fucking this fucking minor.
Well, I can tell you what's on there. They had a bath. He put her feet in his mouth and stuff. He's into feet, I guess. And they play around in there for a little bit, and then he washed her back and stuff, and then they go into the bedroom. And it was like 2 minutes long. What he did not an endurance guy, but he's probably, I don't know, so
2 minutes is pretty good. I ain't judging. Okay, go ahead.
Well, okay. Yeah, yes, it's okay to make. It's so dark, you have to make jokes. But she's being forced to have sex with him, which is different than him raping her. He's dumb enough to think she's willing. Prince Andrew's pretty fucking stupid. But she's still underage. She's not underage in the UK though. 17 is okay. So because it happened in the UK, it's not rape based on age, but it is rape in the fact that she did not want to do it, was unwilling to do it.
What's the difference between force and rape? I don't know the difference. Like if I'm her dad, I kill this guy.
Well, it's statutory rape. Like even if they consent, if a 12-year-old, if you have sex with a 12-year-old, even if the 12-year-old wanted to, you still raped her.
Yeah.
Because they're not of the age of consent. If you forcefully do it to any age, I mean, someone your own age, if you force her to do it, that's rape because you're doing it against their will. So if it's against their will, or if they're too young to consent, that's rape, period. And this is kind of both. She's too young and she's being forced to do it, but she's being forced to do it by Maxwell and Epstein, not Andrew. But he fucking knows, and that's their plausible deniability. Oh, I just thought she wanted to. Like, nah. Why do you think they brought a 17-year-old American girl all the way over to England, and you're in Maxwell's house? You can see Epstein in the reflection of that window right by the flash, by the way. Or no, they put the picture on it, but his creepy little face is in there. But that's he raped her 3 times. So it's unclear if that's the tape or if it's one of the other tapes. But I have heard them described.
How is it getting released? How is it getting released?
Well, the FBI raided his New York property. He probably had a copy of it there.
Yeah, but I mean, they're in control of it. Whoever the they is. Why are they
Well, this is
releasing
what
this?
I think
More
is like
distraction
what I
again?
wrote. This is
Okay.
why it's so huge. This is big if, okay? Just
Okay.
preface this. If Andrew's not that important. He's not a donor class. He's just a royal, whatever. They're just great welfare queens. If he throws Andrew under the bus, because he already had to pay out $16 million in a settlement, because he's pictured there, he definitely did it. He did it 3 times. They can throw Andrew under the bus because he's expendable and not important to the organization anyway. He's just a big name. But it will scare the bejesus out of all the rest of them that they have the tapes. A tape. Andrew's done. He is totally humiliated if his fat ass is out there humping a 17-year-old, which he's denied over and over again. The Royals they're done. They're through. They're over. Because even though it's just him that got caught, at least they will collectively be blamed and shamed to no end. They will have to in turn throw him under the bus too to save themselves and their own reputation. Every other guy out there, from Jess Staley to Glenn Dubin, Wexner, all these guys, these billionaires that were raping kids, are going to be scared out of their mind that Trump could release it on them next. And they're all going to have to get in line and do his agenda. He's Hoover now. He's Costello and Lansky now because he's got the goods on everyone else. His FBI, Biden's out, and he's got the stuff. He's not going to release the Epstein list. He's going to use the Epstein list.
So, Pam Bondi and Kash Patel enter the Oval Office, and they're like, "Hey, we got an idea." Trump's like, "What?" They like, "Let's scare these fuckers and release a tape." Trump's like,
Yeah.
"Good idea."
And they're thinking who? Bill Clinton? No, because you do that, you'll get Clinton. They'll kill you. If you get Andrew, he doesn't have any power outside the UK. And he's a big name, he's kind of a celebrity. Because if it was one of these lower dudes, just some Microsoft executive or whatever that no one knows their name, it doesn't matter. Andrew was the perfect choice. If I was a criminal mastermind and I was going to pick someone off that list,
Yeah.
that would have impact, but not have impact on the donor class, that's the guy. Because it makes the rest of them go, oh, and then you just go to them. Or do you want to be the next tape?
Did Netanyahu
Reid
try to
Hoffman? Yeah.
who tried to kill Trump in Pennsylvania?
Let's do a separate show on that. I don't want to ad lib that. I've been on 2.5 hours, so I'm gonna have a hard out there. But let's leave people hanging.
Okay.
I have videos on that I did with Sean Atwood. It's very interesting because there were 2 attempts. And here's the funny thing: on the golf course in Florida, when they had the second try, Steve Witkoff was there. And you got to know his thing with Antonio Galupci and the rest of it. These guys are mobbed up out of their mind. But there are a lot of prominent Democrats that would lose an enormous amount of money if there's peace in Ukraine. And if you remember the scandal with Sam Brinkman-Fried, or Fraud, was his name? Freed.
The Panamanian Bitcoin dork who's in jail with Diddy?
He's in jail with Diddy.
Yeah.
I always call him Sam Bankman-Fraud, but it's Freed.
Yeah.
But he had that crypto scam with FTX, and what they were doing is they would get inordinate amounts of donations. The DNC would send foreign aid to Ukraine. Ukraine would then buy crypto on his exchange, which would then donate back to the DNC. So it became a self-licking ice cream cone. And continuing that war continues the profiteering from a lot of prominent Democrats that were war profiteering. They don't care about Ukrainians. They don't care if they all die fighting the Russians. It's a battering ram. I call it a crash test dummy because they're losing. But they made a lot of money. Sam went down, but none of the prominent Democrats that he was donating to got in any trouble. And it's clearly recycled aid. You're just using Ukraine as a medium to push money back, tax money, to yourself. That's what they're doing. So they had the most reason to get rid of Trump. And Kim Cheadle, and as I said earlier, Christopher Wray, the head of Secret Service and the head of the FBI were in on this. Every question, she just wouldn't answer anything. And I'm like, God damn, you cannot secure a perimeter shaped like Pac-Man with a fucking rooftop overlooking where the president's stage is going to be and just leave it wide open. That guy, I'm not even say his name because I don't like making these people famous. I think it's part of the incentive for mass shooters and stuff. So just some dork, we're going to call him some dork. Some dork goes on the roof. He does not know the greater plan. They find a never Trumper, train him a little bit, said, you're going to go here on this time. He did recon with a drone. You don't think they saw that? There was Kim Cheadle put the C team, Secret Service, there that day. There were female bodyguards who were not even tall enough to cover Trump. The whole thing was like a Randy and Jim Leahy plot on Trailer Park Boys. Like, this is not professional Secret Service.
Hey, dude, Sam Brightman, Rachel Levine of the Secret Service.
Yeah, it was the same. It was the Brightman Brigade or something.
Yeah, dude.
That's what it was equivalent of.
Bad, yeah.
Yeah, and the cops of Butler, these are the same people that went around pushing over and harassing Trump supporters violently. Like, they had an ideological dog in the fight for sure. And, you had people screaming, there's a guy on the roof, and they're not reacting. Like, we know he's supposed to be there. And the reason that didn't work, the only reason they failed is he's so arrogant. They wanted a headshot on film. They wanted to blow his head of him talking, going, bleh, and then just like his head blowing up. If he had aimed center mass, he'd be dead. But he aimed at the head right as he turned, clipped the ear. For you Christians out there, I think it's Psalms 121, verse 7 and 8, talking about how the Lord will protect you. Throw that up there for Trump, because the ear is about the only place you could get shot from that distance and survive. And that's where he got hit. And had he not been hit, he wouldn't have known to duck. So, like, everything had to go his way. It's a weird lucky, unlucky, because if you're lucky, no one would be shooting at you. So you're unlucky. But the fact that you turned at just the right time and everything was the way it was makes you super lucky. So there needs to be a word for that. Unlucky, lucky.
Does Trump know who did it?
He has the ability to figure that out. He's president.
And okay. God, I would love to. Are you saying that you'll come back on?
Yep.
All right. You had fun. I didn't. You don't think I'm a piece of shit for being confused, being a shitty Zionist, wanting Israel to have its own country?
I think it's a perfectly predictable outcome of mass media. They're not going to explain any of this stuff to you.
Right. I need more therapy with you.
Right on. We can lay on the couch.
Ryan, will you finish explaining the trade routes and why the U.S. cares about the land in Israel? You've been on so long. I'm more than happy to stay on with you.
Put that in a notebook. I'll do that next time. It's Maritime Silk Road. You can read up on it. There's choking points. Panama Canal's one. There's 8 major ones around the world, and there's 2 right there in the Red Sea. One in the north, one in the south. It's very important. It's important to the Chinese too. It's about keeping them out, keeping U.S. hegemony. And Israel, look at the position. It's right there. All the BTC oil and gas from the Caspian Sea that avoids the OPEC nations, that goes through Turkey, where does it go? It goes down the Mediterranean to Israel, slides through that pipeline and hits the Red Sea. Therefore, all that oil and gas that could just go east goes like this instead. And Israel benefits as the middleman, and all this flow of oil and gas going to India and China. Well, it goes to the whole East, it goes to Korea, Japan, everything. But that is, they have positioned themselves. And when there was a coup d'etat in Egypt that had, 2 revolutions back to back during the Arab Spring, they reopened the Suez to all ships, including Libya and Iran. So Gaddafi made a $22 billion oil deal with China. It was not about the gold dinar and all this crap. It's about oil. And they said, and invaded him. NATO invaded, raped him with a knife, killed his children, and filmed it. It was disgusting. They basically handed the country over to Al-Qaeda, and Libya is just a shit show compared to what it used to be. You can criticize Gaddafi, but he held that place together. They had a functional North African country, and they've just swatted that out of the way. But they did not want China having direct access in deep water ports in Libya. They did not want Iranian military ships passing through the Suez Canal going into the Mediterranean at all. Look at the time they're having just with Yemen in the Red Sea. And I get that. I get why, but you can't just destroy Libya over that. They could have negotiated that away, but they chose war. And you get cackling Hillary Clinton going, "We came, we saw, he died." There is nothing to celebrate about overthrowing Gaddafi and replacing him with Al Qaeda.
Are the Clintons really dark? Are they
They're
they're
sick.
dark? They're sick.
They'll
And
kill kids. They'll do anything. Yeah.
even in how did you raise a kid in that? How is she indoctrinated into that?
She got an interesting past, man. And these two have been that way since at least Arkansas with Mina and Iran Contra. They didn't care. Bill and Barry Seal used to visit the same brothels.
Was Monica an Israeli asset?
I don't think she was even born yet when he was doing that. That's how she was only 20 when he was
No,
president.
no, right. But was she an Israeli asset? Like, was that
Well,
an
she was
accident? Was the
Jewish, but
Monica
that doesn't
Lewinsky?
mean
Was that an accident that got out? That was like, oh fuck.
that was a shot across the bow because what they wanted Clinton to bomb Iraq, which he did during his impeachment proceeding. Because people have to understand, you need impeachment and conviction. It's a two-part process. He'd been impeached; he had not been convicted. So during the impeachment proceeding on the conviction end of it, as they're voting for that, he bombs Iraq. So they voted not to convict. And as soon as he was voted not impeached, he stopped bombing Iraq. So if you remember, Clinton went down there at Wolfowitz behest, he blew up some radar and stuff, but he did not want to start a war with Iraq. It would be a disaster. They ended up getting Bush to do it anyway. But
Were they just opportunistic? Like was Clinton just a dog and he's like, yeah, this chick will eat my ass? I mean, the
they
Ken
knew
Starr
Clinton
report's
was
crazy.
Slick Willie, and he had
Okay.
a proclivity for women was his weakness. They knew they could get her in. He visited with Epstein many times, you know. But
Did
if
she
you
know
use
Epstein? Did Lewinsky know Epstein?
no, that's a separate ring. They had a she was part of the DC Madame thing with Deborah Jean Palfrey, but that
No
it doesn't matter.
shit.
So what happens is if you use Epstein, you now drew attention to that. If you have if you can catch him on a lower ring, do it. Because the thing about blackmail is once you use it, you compromise yourself a little bit too. You
Right.
don't want people looking at Epstein. What was Clinton doing where? What because if you go to the island, oh damn, you can't clean that up. So, and this was a problem with Epstein. Epstein did invite, there's pictures of him and Clinton and Maxwell right away, like a month after he's sworn in. They're there in the West Wing. He. But Clinton and Mrs. Clinton too, she slept with women. They had a series going in and out of the White House. This is not uncommon for politicians, unfortunately. But to his credit, Clinton, so far, there's no evidence of kitty fiddling. Epstein did not just have kids, he had young women too. And that seems to be his thing. He wasn't into children, at least. He was into biting lips, and he was a biter. He bit faces and stuff. He's weird. Hillary was into 6.9, which is about as gross as it gets. But no kids.
What's 6.9? Like going down like 69 with other women? Like eating
It's
women out?
69 with a period in the middle.
Yum. Hey,
Operation Redbeard.
I know I have to let you go. But going back to the Monica thing.
Well, Cheney did something worse, but we'll just.
Oh man,
it's disgusting.
Hey,
You don't want to know.
was Monica? So what? The story that I read, I started digging into the Kenneth Starr report, and the story that I read is that her mom told her, "Hey, I want to send you to Washington to marry a rich man."
Yeah.
And you're saying that somehow she got tied up in some other shit.
What a Jewish stereotype.
Yeah, I mean, if it works perfect, right? Yeah.
Hey, nowadays, it's not even shamed with OnlyFans and all that. Like, yeah, go get a rich guy. Our Ted Kaczynski was right, man. Our whole moral fabric is just falling apart. Technological society is just
Kaczynski the Unabomber? Was he the guy who blew
Yeah.
up? That's the Oklahoma building?
No, he didn't blow up Oklahoma. That was blamed on Timothy V. McVeigh, but it was actually Andre Strassmeyer. Ted Kaczynski sent bombs through the mail, mostly towards tech czars. He killed 2 people.
Did he get?
But the Unabomber was actually the Unabombers, and he took the fall for the whole FC group. So, and he wasn't even the one that killed them. He sent bombs that damaged things. They upped the ante, but it was his manifesto, which his brother recognized. So they went and arrested him, and he was trying to get the death penalty, and his brother said, "No, you're insane," because he is. He had problems. They MK ultra'd him, but he was so mad about that. He's like, you know that there's nothing worse for someone like me that needs autonomy the way I do and isolation the way I do on his farm and freedom to be stuck in a jail cell with a bunch of morons like that. I'd rather die. So even though he was aware that he was insane, he wanted to go in and say, nope, I'm perfectly fine. Give me the death penalty. And his brother intervened. Not only did he tell on him, but then he made him have a faith worse than death, sitting in that noisy prison. He hated noise, hated it. Like he fantasized about killing motorcycle riders and stuff. And he suffered. He committed suicide June 10th, which is the day the Unabomber was born. Like when they called him the Unabomber was June 10th. That was for United Airlines. That's what Una came from. They bombed a plane in the cargo section. Didn't try to blow it up. Definitely could have. Definitely knew how to. They did it like, hey, publish my manifesto. They still didn't do it. So the terror attacks continued. But he's purposely hung himself on the same day that the Unabomber Moinker was created. I have letters back and forth with him. I used to write to him.
Oh,
really
shit.
intelligent, definitely mentally ill, but he was a mathematician. He was IQ 160. Can you imagine having people say that, but nobody really has that. If you really had an IQ 160, that would be like you or I stuck in fourth grade for our whole life. Like no one gets smarter than 9 years old.
Just stuck.
Imagine like
Yes,
everyone around you is a
yes.
fourth grader, because that's what it seems like.
I
If
live in
you're that
Santa Cruz,
smart.
California. It's what it's like. It's what it's
Well,
like.
yeah, that's true. Those people can't name 5 countries.
I don't even care about that. It's the other shit they believe. Hillary and Huma, that was Wiener's wife, Huma, right? They were White House carpet munchers.
Oh yeah, she had a little Turkish fetish too.
You know who she's with now? I think she's with Soros's son.
Gross.
You know, Anthony Weiner. She's with
You
Soros's
know,
son.
you want to hear some more disgusting stuff about Hillary before I go? Or
Please,
save it?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I voted for her. I let my mom vote for me, I think, that year.
she is a double stretch, which means she would this is so disgusting. She wear 2 pairs of pantyhose and walk around all day just to get the stank up to maximum, and then force a girl to eat her out.
That's really true.
That's a thing. She and you can see if you look at the Clinton thing, like, is she wearing 2 pairs of pantyhose? She is in a lot of pictures, and that is what she's doing, is pumping up the stank.
I didn't even know women were like that. I thought that was just men who did weird shit. There's weird women, huh?
Because lesbians will do it, I guess. I don't know.
Hey,
That's weird for either sex, man. That's fucking weird.
I know. I don't want to smell anything.
By the way, Koreans, 90% of them have a gene where they don't have body odor. It doesn't matter how many pantyhose they wore; they will never stink down there or anywhere else.
No matter how much curry they eat,
they don't need deodorant. They don't need it. It's called the AB111 or something like that. Only Koreans have it, and like 20% of Japanese or something. So that's why they just smell beautiful all the time.
Wow. Hey, do you know who Thomas Sowell is over at the Hoover Institute?
I know Thomas Sowell.
Sowell, yeah, Sowell. Thank you.
90-year-old black guy, not to be confused with the racist Australian guy.
Yeah, Thomas Sowell.
Yeah. It is spelled Sowell though. I got a bunch of his books right there.
You know that white guy who interviews him on all the videos?
Yeah, it's like, well, not William Buckley from Liberty Pen, but the later ones.
The newer guy, the guy who's doing the more recent ones. That's I feel like I'm that guy and you're Thomas Sowell, so that's good.
I wish.
Yeah, I feel like you're Thomas Sowell. Okay, hey,
I think he does that interview style. He kind of plays a little dumber than he is. Like, he's read the books, he kind of knows, but he's saying what he thinks people will say so that Sowell can give him their answer. Thomas Sowell and Ron Paul are like another level on economics.
I bought this poster. Everyone should buy this poster. The website is anti-neocon.com.
Mm-hmm.
you
That
gotta
book,
follow.
that Separation of Business and State, if you're a nerd, you'll enjoy that. It's all about, we need to divorce government and business. Leave businesses alone. Get rid of the income tax. Anyway, that's a long, big can of worms, but
Hey, do you work out?
I do. I always used to be a jujitsu instructor.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
And what do you do for
I,
your daily training? You got
well,
you
now
got you got an
I
assault
can't
bike or
see
something?
now, so
What do you do to
I have
sweat
a.
every day? You run?
No, I'm more of a swimmer than a runner, but
Oh,
I have a gym and I do jujitsu. Like I sweat from doing jujitsu.
you do it with your boys?
They're a little too young. One of them's only 4, so
Hmm.
I wrestle with them. We do WWE style choke slam on the mattress and all that, but I don't really uh, fight with them
Did you watch
because
Jack fight, De La Maddalena this weekend?
I didn't see the fights this weekend.
Oh, you should see it.
I usually watch UFC and I'll follow kickboxing too. And if I watch a lot of judo. Like in Japan, that's just on TV, right? So you don't get it in the US unless it's the Olympics.
Right.
But over here, judo and sumo and all are like very popular sports. Kind of like I wouldn't even say wrestling's popular in the US. It's weird because it's in the
No.
public school system, but it's not on TV. But people would watch it if you put it on TV, I think.
Well, jiu-jitsu's starting to get a little more play on TV. I watch all the UFC, and the guy who won
Yeah,
the championship.
jujitsu's grew because of the Gracies and because of UFC. Like a lot of people did, they knew karate, they knew uh, taekwondo and kung fu. They didn't know about jujitsu because there was no movie. Like Karate Kid made karate popular,
Yeah.
and the Gracies made jujitsu popular.
How
But
old
there's
are you?
never been like a judo movie.
How old are you?
46.
Holy shit, dude! You look young as shit.
Yeah, I'm not. I eat the right stuff.
All right. Great meeting you. Sounds like you
And
met
don't
the
do
right.
steroids. You want to age fast? Do roids, SARMs, any of that stuff. You're gonna get gray hair in your face in no time.
Those are bad. Well, I didn't do those. I'm just Armenian,
Yeah,
and
some people just that's the
and I'm
genes, but I'm
53.
saying
I just felt
look at
defensive.
Gordon
Like,
Ryan when he's 29 and he looks 58. He's
yeah,
shredded, but that'll age you, man. Stay away from roids. It's not worth it. You can gain muscle by doing the work.
he doesn't seem like he's having very much fun in life either. I've never seen him in an interview and been like, "Oh, that dude's having fun."
He gets banned on a lot of stuff too.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he, like he's facing the sin. He's very good jujitsu, but I think drugs is cheating.
I think he has autism too, right?
Oh, does he?
Yeah,
Well,
I
that
think
would
he's got a
explain
little.
a lot.
Yeah, he's
Well, now he's
autistic. Yeah,
forgiven.
yeah.
I didn't know that.
I like having fun. Like walking. You walk around barefoot a lot?
I do. I'm from the beach, so I walk. I'll walk like 2 hours a day because I'm like I can't sit here and podcast. I know I did it now, but you can see I've been trying to leave. Like
Yeah, you're
I
trying to
like
leave.
walking around and talking usually,
Okay.
but in an interview with wind and all that, I'm not going to do that. But if I'm just talking to Telegram where I'm listening, I'm getting feedback from people because I have a group. We get politics from all over the world, but I'm not going to sit in my chair and listen to it. I'm going to at least walk if I can't jog. So I like walking. It's enjoyable.
Do you have your own podcast?
Yeah, on Substack. I have a
Okay.
Rumble too, and we cover it all. So
Ryan, thank you. You the man.
appreciate the time, man. Appreciate bringing my stuff to a new audience, and all y'all have been listening this long. Bless your heart, and I mean that they're not in the southern way, but in a sincere way.
And is the best way to communicate with you through email?
Yeah, email. You can DM me on Twitter. I'm pretty good at answering those.
Okay. I don't even know
It
if I
looks
know how to
like
do
I
that.
have what do I have 284,000. Seems overwhelming, but I don't get a lot of private messages, so that works for now.
Okay, cool. All right, brother.
Peace.
My pleasure. Yep. Thank you. Peace out to you too. All right. Ryan Dawson. The roid thing. Yeah. Don't do roids. Or I mean, I didn't do roids. I turned gray. He looks like he's 30. Boy, he knows a lot of stuff. I enjoy the squirreliness of the conversation. Some people I saw someone said something about how the discourse just moves all over the place, or someone said Sevon can't keep up with this. I love that shit. I love that shit. Oh, Steven, I was thinking about you today. I want to tell you, buddy, me and you are cut from the same cloth. Was it you who's giving me the thumbs up on the 400-pound black woman this morning? I was actually thinking, I was like, oh yeah, there was one, Steven. I got to remember that name. I'm reading text messages from my wife. My wife said, "This guy's really great, and you're doing a really good job." Thank you. I know I flourish in those situations. God, I want to tell you some funny political shit that's happening in the CrossFit space. It's just, I mean, I'm going to tell you eventually anyway. It'd just be weird to tell you now because um, it could sabotage like some like stuff I'm trying to do. Um, I guess I would just say this to all the haters. I probably like you more than the person who claims to love you the most in your life, and you can't do anything about me because no one pays me. I don't get paid except by the loyal listeners. And I love black people, and I think black men are the only way to save the world or save the United States. So those are those are the three things you need to know. And I would be more than happy to be sidelined and benched. You're only doing me a favor. So be chill. Everyone be chill. Just be chill. He thought you couldn't say the N-word on the internet. Yeah, I love Chandler Smith. He's awesome. I don't even know, is Chandler Smith woke? I love Chandler. He's cool. I like the darker the better, and the more buff the better. Like everything dark and buff. Maybe I don't need my women to be too buff. I reckon he got rejected by Jewish woman and he has repressed anger. Oh, homeboy, Ryan? I don't know, he doesn't seem angry to me at all. I thought he was cool. I thought he was cool. I thought he was cool. Somewhere he's really wrapped around the axle of like killing kids and Israelis killing kids specifically. And it's like people who are against abortion. It's like hard to push back on that. You know what I mean? It's really hard to like you can't be like, "No, it's justified. Go ahead and kill the kids." You just can't do that. So he's got a really like a strong like position where he drops down to. I tried to keep going bigger picture with him, like, hey, what's the best? And that's the I DM with Tank Reeves a lot, and that's the thing I always say to him too. But hey, dude, what's the best outcome? I'm not talking about what's right and wrong in the moment. Like what would be right now is I get up and pee, but I'm not going to do it because it's not the outcome I want. And so maybe it would my family should have stayed and fought for their Armenian homeland. By the way, I went to the house in Turkey that my grandparents that's up and there's people who live in it. When my grandparents were chased out of Turkey and my great grandparents and my grandparents, I went to that house. There's a family living there. I knocked on the door. Yo, what's up? Motherfuckers tried to kill my family. I almost wasn't alive because of you. But I'm so glad my life is so much better than those people's lives who live in that house. That house didn't even have a bathroom or electricity or nothing. No running water. Were there any alternative? Mason, a great interview. Nice to hear alternative thoughts. Wow, Mason, is this the first nice thing you posted on this site, on this chat? I don't know. I thought me and this guy saw eye to eye on on almost everything. My thing would be is just to fly in a bunch of C-130s and move all those people out. I don't know where you move them, but there's 8 billion people on the planet. I don't care where you move them. Move them somewhere. Hey, you know what you want to do? You know what they should do is they should invade South Africa. Move all the white people out, move the Arabs in, and let them figure that out. Let the Africans and the Arabs figure that shit out down there. Not Santa Cruz. No, I don't want him in Santa Cruz. It wasn't alternative thoughts, but it was interesting seeing his opinions and stuff he did know. Yeah, he knows a lot of shit, right? God, he had to leave us with a Hillary Clinton stanky pussy. All right, I have to pee. I wonder if we have confirmation. Uh, do we have Greg confirmation for? Oh, I have to talk to Caleb. Okay. All right, I gotta pee. I can't. I want to hang out with you guys. I gotta pee. It's 9 o'clock. I want to hang out. Sorry. I got distracted. Now you know what it's like to hang out with me. Yeah, great show. Thanks for hanging out tonight. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Regardless, I don't know if Greg. I haven't got confirmation from Greg tomorrow, but I assume he'll be here tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Love you guys. Hope you enjoyed the show. Hopefully, I can break off some reels and sub clips. That was a good one. Hopefully, he'll come back on. I'll see if I'll talk to Susan and see if we can get this guy scheduled on again in a month. He'd be great to have on, just to ask questions to. Love you guys. Bye bye.